They told us he probably is armed with an AK-47, possibly a hunting rifle. And all I could think is he's going to kill my teammates. And we're hiking with nods, no light. And it wasn't even a logical, I should shoot him now. It was just boom, fired the round. He goes down, the gun recoils. Almost cinematically, you could see the AK firing and it's rippling. And you can see like this red dirt chasing up to my teammate. And then all of a sudden he goes down and had the crosshairs right on the back of his skull. And I think, well, I can just turn this guy off like the switch. If you're not killing any of us today, I'll end you.
Welcome to Combat Story. I'm AJ Pasciuti, a retired Marine, Force Recon, Scout Sniper, and Marine Gunner with 21 years of service, multiple combat tours, and a lifetime of lessons learned in the arena itself. On this show, I sit down with warriors from every front line to uncover what combat truly feels like and how it shapes the way we see life, each other, and ourselves. This is Combat Story. Today on Combat Story, we're joined by Jeremy Rebmann, a United States Air Force Academy graduate who began his career with the Air Force Office of Special Investigations before moving into federal law enforcement and ultimately spending 23 years with the FBI as a special agent. Most notably, Jeremy spent 21 of those years on the FBI's Oklahoma City SWAT team, serving in roles that included SWAT operator, assault team leader, lead medic, senior firearms instructor, and sniper team leader. Work that lives at the sharp end of the high-risk warrants, barricaded subjects, and hostage situations. He's also the author of Send Me, Chronicles of an FBI Sniper, where he gives a clear-eyed look at that world, not just the operations, but the standards, the team culture, and what it means to be the person others rely on when the stakes are at their highest. And there's a detail that stuck with me. Jeremy's literally been the guy holding the shield, physically putting himself between danger and his teammates. It's a simple image, but it's also a useful metaphor for what the Bureau is supposed to do at its best. Hold the shield for the country, protecting the public, upholding the United States Constitution, and staying in the fight when it would be easier to step back. At the core of Jeremy's story is that mindset. The FBI never gives up. This is Combat Story.
I'd like to welcome everyone back to the show. My name is AJ Pasciuti, the host of Combat Story, and I'm with Jeremy Rebmann, a FBI special agent and FBI SWAT sniper. Did I get the term correct?
Yep.
So my first question for you is, can you describe the term special agent and where the term special agent came from?
Oh, yeah. I get that a lot because there are organizations that have agents and special agents, but the original term going back to the late 1800s in the FBI, before the FBI, the Bureau of Justice, uh, a special agent was they're agents of the government. Like if you run an informant, they're an agent of the government. If you run a counterintelligence asset, they're agents. A legal term. So a special agent of the government would be someone who is acting on behalf of the government, can carry a gun, execute arrests. So that's sort of an old-timey way of just saying, not a regular agent of the government, someone who can do less common tasks. So it didn't really mean glorious or fantastic or like wonderful agent. It just meant like not your standard employee
Okay.
is really all it meant.
Different roles and responsibilities, I think, in some levels as well.
Yeah. Attorney General Bonaparte in like, I can't remember, 1890 something, started using that term when he was building the US Department of Justice. And he said he needed a special agent force, a special group of detectives. And the term just stuck ever since, special agent.
One of the things I wanted to do while now I have you recording on camera is I want to tell you how great of a writer you actually are.
Thank you so much.
Your story is one fascinating, but your writing itself, it's super funny. It's high impact, action packed. I have not been FBI agent, never was an FBI agent. And I can say this now on the record. I spent, a long time in the military. Sometimes I was reading your book being like, damn, did I miss my calling? Like, this sounds really fun and it sounds really cool. Some of the stories you have in here. So can you take us to kind of the beginning of your story and what led you to service in the first place?
I grew up kind of low income, but a really loving mother and a big sister that kind of looked after me. Not a lot of male role models. And I think in retrospect, I was craving brotherhood. But man, as early as I can remember, man, if I got a set of crayons and a coloring book, I was drawing guns and bombers and tanks. I mean, my mom was worried about me, and I don't know where I got it from. I mean, I guess, watching G.I. Joe, that kind of stuff, but I mean, I loved the camaraderie, brotherhood, and, a little bit of glorification of combat, but I got my eyes set on being a fighter pilot when I was probably in middle school, and that drove me all the way through high school and college was the desire to join the military and be a pilot. And, that was not the road I ended up going on, but at least it gave me the drive to go try to get good grades and get into a good college.
Your book starts off pretty quickly into your story about, launching and receiving aircraft and kind of the celebratory actions of that. Can you go into a little bit more detail on that specific instance?
Sure, I think the story you're talking about is that there was a part of my Air Force career where we did some special missions that were not sexy or glorious, but they were classified, and we launched certain surveillance aircraft from undisclosed places. And I had been a sortie generation officer, which is a guy that launches jets, loads bombs, and makes sure the fuel's full and that sort of stuff. And we had this mission to go to this country for several months, and we were going to launch jets. We were flying over. I think this mission in Bosnia Herzegovina, looking for mass graves using ISR. And up till then, I'd been a tanker, KC-135 flying fuel truck, flight commander, and I'd now been assigned to this U-2 unit, and, so I'd never really seen them operate before, and they fly these really long missions. They fly, I mean, these 8, 12, 15-hour missions. The guys are literally wearing a spacesuit. I mean, it looks like a spacesuit because it is one, and man, they pee and poop in it, like, they're doing stretching exercises to prevent cramps. I was talking to some of these guys, and we get done chasing this U-2 down the runway in a sports car and get it off the runway, and which is I thought was just normal, like, you get the pilots out, now you need to start thinking about the plane. What's broken on this plane so I can fix. And no one really cares about the pilots as they get off in a tanker squadron, but they pop the canopy, and this guy is just doesn't move. And I thought, "Man, jump out. You've been in there for 8, 12 hours, let's go." And then I realized he can't. Like, he is wrecked from being cramped into this, box for the better part of an entire day.
Wow.
And then all these people are there, like, so many 15, 20 people from the squadron are there, and you can tell, like, some of them just came in off duty, some of them are still in uniform, and they're, like, hooking under his armpits, pulling this guy out of the jet, and he's just rubber legs, and they're kinda rubber legging him down these stairs and get him. They've already got a chair ready. They get a chair down, they get his space helmet off. He's just got matted, wet hair, and they're all just smiling at each other, loving on each other. I'm not used to this kind of community at all, and they're rubbing his head and hugging on him, and I mean, people are shouting and hooping, and I was like, "This dude must have just, like, are there bombs? Did he bomb Russia? What just happened?
Right, right.
What could be so great about a surveillance jet?" And so I asked one of the pilots that was a friend of mine about my age and a fellow Air Force Academy grad, like, "What happened? What did this guy just do?" And he's like, "Dude, he went into enemy territory and came home alive." Like, we celebrate all these victories.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Wait, so this isn't like a special day?" And he's like, "Yeah, every one of these is a special day. Like, that brother went downrange,
Yeah.
and we're gonna celebrate his bravery for what he did." And I was like, "Man, that's crazy. I've never seen that sort of brotherhood before." And I think you're right. It triggered something in me where I was like, "Man, I want a band of protectors that I can join that would do something like that. You would embrace the fact I do something dangerous for others."
I love that. All right. So as we're following through here, so you go to the Air Force Academy. There's a lot of fun vignettes inside of it. The Air Force, hey, I got to give you a little bit of credit as a former Marine here. There was some tough stuff happening in the Air Force that we don't give you guys credit for. A lot of yelling in the ears. I was like, all right, all right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I don't know if they can do that anymore. I wonder. 'Cause back then, I mean, there weren't cell phones.
Yeah.
No one video recorded any of that, so
I'm not sure what the service academies are like anymore. And again, yeah, over the last generation, I'm sure they've changed considerably. So what led you to eventually exiting the Air Force, and then how did you choose your next career path?
Well, as a sortie generation officer, I never really felt like I was in the right place. I was trying to stay close to the flight line, and it just wasn't working. And I found myself in a ennui of just sort of a I don't know what I'm doing in the Air Force, and I don't know what else I should do. And I was deployed overseas. We were flying over Iraq, and kinda had, like, a moment where I just kinda broke down, where I was like, I can't do this for 20 years, and I don't know what else I'm gonna do." And I called my wife on one of the we had these old sat phones back then. It's just like a plywood shack, and you could sign up for, like, a 15-minute call back home once a week. And I'm sitting there with my wife, and I'm like, "Hello?" Wait for her, and she says, "Hello," and I basically was like, "Babe, I'm not doing okay." And she's like, What did you get hurt? What happened?" And I'm like, "No, I can't do this job anymore." And she was cool about it. She was just like, "I'll be praying for you. Everything's gonna be fine." And then she started telling me about the Bible study that she was in, and just tangentially mentioned this guy in the new Bible study who was an OSI special agent, which is it's a lot like the Air Force FBI. It's the Office of Special Investigations. She's like, "He wears a uniform. He never wears a uniform, but he's an officer, and he carries a gun everywhere on base." And so when I get back, I meet this guy at Bible study, and we hit it off, and I'm like, "That job sounds amazing." I've heard about it, but I didn't really know what an OSI special agent did. So we started palling around, and then the, like, thousand-year flood hit North Dakota, and it wrecked 50,000 people's homes. And all I did was emergency I basically they turned my hangar into a homeless shelter for 4 or 5 months. But his home got destroyed, and he moved in with me for a month, so we really became bros. And so I ended up joining OSI. I mean, they scooped me up, and for the first time, felt like, "Oh, this is where I'm supposed to be."
Okay.
Running cases and doing the things that an agent does, and I was good at it. Like, I graduated top of my class, academics and firearms. I was like, "I'm actually pretty good at this too." And so I did OSI for about 3 years, and in the course of OSI, was working a joint case with some FBI agents in Florida, and never thought about the FBI. Like, that was a pipe dream. And these guys were like, "Bro, you should throw your application in." I was like, "Okay, sure."
Like, okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And again, I'm dating myself, but back then it started with a one piece of paper. And so I remember literally this special agent Mulvihill, a Vietnam combat veteran. And he's just like, "Hey, kid, take this." And I filled out this one-page form and mailed it in, and before I knew it, I was in the no joke application process. And same thing, the bureau hired me really fast. And at Quantico, which is where new agent training is, about 5 months of training, I just felt like I was in my place. I was pretty good at everything I did, and I enjoyed it, and I was like, "This is what I've been looking for all along."
And so what if you don't mind me asking, what year was this kind of when you were in Quantico, where you first started FBI training?
99 is when I went to Quantico.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, I spent some time in Quantico, and actually, our when I went to Advanced Sniper in 2007, I was in the Marine Corps for like 5 years, 6 years at that point, and it's at Quantico, and we actually go over to the FBI labs when we were doing a lot of the ballistic data, and I'm sure you and I can like geek out over a
Oh, yeah.
lot of that stuff later on,
Yeah.
but it was the first time that we had the chance to chronograph our guns. That wasn't something
Oh.
that was readily available for most of us.
Mhm.
We were using the old M40A3s, basically a Remington 700 at the time,
Mhm.
and so we would have our little data books. We would shoot into ballistic gel. We were learning, at the FBI Academy from your ballisticians, right? The
Mhm.
actual terminal ballistics. For us, Advanced Sniper was a lot more about learning the effects of our rounds, learning the effects of how they, impact, go through mediums and things like that. It was a fascinating experience. And I loved how tight the Marine Corps and the FBI Academy were. So we got a chance to actually eat in your chow hall. And I remember that. I don't know if it was the same as it was in 99 as it was in 2007, but you guys had a fantastic chow hall. So I judge a lot of branches based on how they feed their service members.
Yeah, well, I've been in the Air Force, so I was used to caviar anyway, so
Yeah, no kidding. We're coming from like the slot chow hall down the way. We had to run down to the FBI Academy, so we made sure that when we ran down there, we had enough so that we could have, change in our pocket to go eat in this nice little chow hall. All right, so 99, you're at the FBI Academy for a 5-month school. What do you learn inside of that? And obviously, I know you can't give everything away, but what was that like?
Yeah. I thought it was great. I loved the environment. I mean, it was super stressful. The average new agent, the new agent when he gets a shiny new gold badge, the average age is 31. So I was like the young kid. I think I was 27. No, 20. Yeah, 27, something like that. And there were guys that were all up through 37 in my class, but the environment was very much like, we picked you, we want you to succeed. And having been in the military,
Wow.
there were plenty of schools I went to where they were like, "We're here to weed people out."
Yeah. Yeah.
And we
Nutrition
don't
is the mission.
Yes. We brought in 500 of you because we wanna graduate 200. So let's start,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and Quantico was like, "We picked all 50 of you for those seats, and we could replace you in a heartbeat. There's 1,000 people that qualify to sit in that seat, but if you wanna be here, we'll help you do it." So, like, my roommate was an attorney, and he was intimidated by the law exam. So I'm like, "I'm terrified by the law exam." And they stack it so that, like, there's a PT test one day, and then there's a law exam, and then you've gotta do combatives or boxing, and, they had these scenarios at Hogan's Alley, which is it's a legit you probably saw it. It's a legit functioning town, like, the movie theater's a movie theater, deli serves food, people play pool in the pool hall. The bank getting robbed every Wednesday at noon is fake, but there are every Wednesday, there's someone robbing the bank of Hogan.
Wow.
And so the training, I just thought, man, we shot 4 or 5,000 rounds through our pistols, and we shot M4s, shotguns, MP5s. We legit beat each other to a pulp, getting black eyes. We got to drive at 150 miles an hour around the track. Like, a
Yeah.
lot of it, I was like, this is crazy. I would do this for free. I would pay money to do this.
100%.
Yeah. And then there were days where I'm like, I don't want to be here anymore. I miss my wife. I'm sick of living with another dude, sharing a bathroom with 4 guys.
Smelling feet and farts the
Yeah.
entire day.
And we pretty much wore blue polos and khaki pants every single day. Like, you know, and so I was ready to graduate when it was time to graduate, but I thought it was when I graduated from there after almost 5 months, I thought, I know at least how to do the basics of how to do this job. I know how to fight and shoot, investigate, collect evidence, interview people. I felt ready to go.
So you felt pretty prepared, leaving that view. Like the curriculum sets you up well enough that you could step into what is it, a branch? Is it a bureau? What is it called when
Y
you get to your first duty station?
You go to a field office. There's
Okay, hold on.
56 big field offices, and then those field offices have hundreds of resident agencies. And then overseas, there's about 50, legal attaché offices, legat offices, but that's just for senior agents.
Okay. All right. So then you get your first field office assignment. And how does that lineup work? Do you get like a preference? Do you come from like a place of, do you have like this is where I was recruited from, this is where I'm going, or is it kind of like the military where you're like, well, we don't know where we're going to send you?
Yeah. It was a little bit better than the military because, I mean, at least my experience was military is just you're just unless you knew how to politic, who knows where you're gonna go. You just kinda held your breath. And, at Quantico, they actually gave you a list of the 56 field offices, the big offices, and you got to list them 1 through 56.
Oh, wow.
So, if they if they found out you were cherry picking, if you were like, "Well, I'd really like to go to this, place near a beach in North Carolina, and I'd really like to maybe go to Hawaii, and I think Austin would be nice." They would wreck you. They're like, "You
Really?
don't." Yeah, they're like, "If you have a reason to go to an area of the country, we'll try to work with you. But don't try to cherry pick just the nicest offices." And so, I mean, I'd been deployed overseas. I'd been stationed in Texas, North Dakota. I lived on both coasts, and I just knew, like, I don't really wanna be where it's super cold. I don't wanna be in a big city. Anywhere in the US is fine with any central part of the US is fine with me.
Oh, cool.
So I was like, Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas, Colorado, I don't that's all good, man, that's
Give
all
me
good.
somewhere in the middle, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's fine with me, and so they don't want you to go home.
Okay.
No one's 100% sure why. kind of two schools of thought. One of them is like old school mafia. If you join the bureau for the mob as like to be like an insider, and then they send you to Dallas. If you came out of Chicago and send you to Dallas, like good luck connecting with your old mafia. So the other thought is that it's just literally like it's big boy rules. Go somewhere new, start fresh. Go somewhere where no one knows you, and learn the job. At any rate, I knew, but I had to ask him because I was born in Florida. My last duty station was Florida. I got family in Florida. Most of my family's in Oklahoma. I grew up in Oklahoma. So I had to ask him, tell me where home is so I don't step on any toes because I'll go to Oklahoma or Florida. I don't, those sound great. And they said, no, you can't go back to Florida. So I was like, all right, cool. Same thing, Oklahoma, Kansas, Colorado, all that. Like any of that's fine. And then they have an assignment night about halfway, maybe 2, 3 months through. They bring your whole class in. It's after dinner. It's in the evening. And all these instructors come because it's like, they like to see the guy that gets screwed the worst. It's so I think guys are actually taking bets. But you have your list and you go up to the front of the class. They're like Rebmann, and and you walk up to the front of the class. Your whole class is waiting. There's all these instructors kind of in the peanut gallery, and they have a great big map of the United States. They give you a pin where you're supposed to pin where you're going to go, and they give you an envelope and a letter opener.
So
And you
this whole thing. Well,
yeah,
it's
yeah. And then they call up the next person after you, and they come up and they stand beside you, right? Like so, they're like up the bat. And the tradition is you open your letter with the letter opener, and you have to hand it to the guy who's up the back because they don't want you to stab yourself in the neck with it when you're opening the letter. And I'd already had a hint where I was going, so I get it out, and I'm like, "I'm from Florida. I would like to go anywhere." Oklahoma is 4th on my list. I think I'm going to Oklahoma. Open it, bam, going to Oklahoma.
Okay.
And so one of the instructors later grabs me, and he's like, "Hey, who told you that it's a big deal? Like, that stuff should never leak." And I was like, "It didn't like, I just talked to the senior agent in the lunchroom, and he told me," he's like, "No, I'm serious. I need to know." And I'm like, "No, I'm promise you, I have a legitimate leak." A couple weeks ago, I was in the chow hall, and most classes sit together. So my class, we'd all sit together at a table, and then there's the National Academy guys, and like you said, there'll be visiting Marines there. They'll
Knuckle draggers.
yeah. Well, guys going through HRT selection, the tactical helicopter unit selection, they'll be there, flight suits drenched in sweat, just eating like they're in the prison house, and you get the whole group. But most of the in-service senior agents kind of sit together. They're there for like an advanced ballistic school or advanced interview workshop. This senior dude just wanders over and plops down at our table. We're all nervous as hell. We're like, and he's like, "Hey kids, go around the room. Hey, go around the table. Everybody tell me where you're going." And that's a big thing in the bureau is you before you graduate from Quantico, 15 people have already heard stories about you. And it is an agency of detectives.
Yeah, that
And
makes sense. That makes sense.
before you show up, there's someone who's like, "Dude, I got a guy who's a field counselor back in Quantico. I'll call," and a guy from Tulsa will call, "Hey, there's this kid named, whatever." And they're like, "No, no, he's cool. He's cool. He's a good dude. He did this on his fit." So people are collecting intelligence the whole time, but
Yeah, I can imagine.
this dude plot, and that's what he's doing. He's trying to figure out. He wants to get intel back to his buddies about. And so he's like, "Where y'all going?" And we're like, "Sir, we haven't done assignment night yet."
Okay.
He's like, "All right, well, let's go around the table and everybody just tell me what you put in for and where you want to go." And which is weird. He gets to me and I'm like, "I'll go anywhere. I don't care." I put Houston, Dallas, Little Rock. I don't remember Oklahoma City. I can't, and he's like, "Okay, okay, cool." No, I forgot. I put Austin like number 2, and he's like, "What's your background?" I used to be military, Air Force Special Operations Command. I was an OSI special agent. He's like, "Going to Brownsville, Texas." Next. I'm like, "Wait, wait, wait, wait. I've heard about Brownsville. Why am I going to Brownsville?" And he's like, "They're not going to worry about you. Like with your background, they're just going to throw you to the wolves, and you're just going to start running down narco terrorists, and you'll be fine."
Oh, is that
Uh,
just jumping right in? Yeah.
yeah. And I'm like, "Wait, why?" And he said, "Well, you said Austin." And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't want to go to Brownsville. I want to go to Austin." And he said, "No, everyone wants to go to Austin. There's a huge waiting list for Austin, but they'll see your resume and they'll say, 'Well, don't put him in Austin. Send him down to Brownsville. We don't have the kind of guys we need in Brownsville very often.'" I was like, "Okay, wait. If I take Austin completely off my list, then I won't go to Brownsville. And he's like, "Yeah, that's how you game it, kid." So like, "All
Oh,
right,
okay, so
cool."
there's a whole system. You're like, "Wait, I'd like to make an amendment to my list,
Yeah.
please." Is that okay.
So I redo my list. I'm like Dallas, Houston, Kansas City, Oklahoma City. I don't remember. And he goes, "Oh yeah, Oklahoma City, probably do a small RA."
Okay.
I was like, "Okay, all right." And so at assignment night, I guess, I'm like, "I think I'm going to my number 4 choice. I think I'm going to a small RA in Oklahoma." And sure enough, they sent me to Norman, Oklahoma, which is it's an office of 3 men in a town of 100,000.
So you get to Norman, Oklahoma is your first assignment, and like you
Mhm.
said, so 3, other special agents inside of and please correct me if I use any terms wrong, I'm learning this. It's
Mhm.
my first time ever talking with a law enforcement agent in this space, so I'm really excited about this. Um, so in Norman, Oklahoma, small RA what is RA?
Resident agency. I don't think I explained that. Any satellite office that reports to a field office is a
Okay.
resident agency.
Okay, and so, like, a hierarchy is, like, an RA are your satellites, and then your field,
Field
office
office.
is where, like, kind of the big wigs live.
Yep.
Your as I read later on in your book, some maybe more of your GS-14s living in that
Yes.
area.
Yes.
So you kick through the RA, and then immediately you have to do 18. Did you know that you wanted to be on SWAT, or did you just want to be, a regular special agent?
I wanted to be an agent and I love the idea of SWAT, but I didn't think they would take me for SWAT, and I wasn't particularly athletic, and I knew that that was a big part of it. I mean, I think I was pretty average in athleticism or maybe probably below average considering the guys that were on the team. But I knew that I was interested because when I was an OSI special agent at Hurlburt Field at AFSOC, I had access to the ranges where, like, I could shoot up cars and blow det cord and shoot 40s, like 40 Mike. I mean, and I got to work with the AFSOC guys, the combat controllers and pararescue men, and the OSI doesn't really have anything quite like that, and I had a hunger for that. And part of that is OSI is plainclothes investigators. If we had a rogue combat controller that we needed to arrest, which is, an extremely rare thing, you just have his first shirt call him into the office and be like, "Hey, report around 0500, your E9 wants to talk to you." And then he's like, "Hey, listen, you're under arrest for this or that." But, like, we didn't kick in doors. We didn't need to kick in doors.
Sure, because there's still
Mm.
some sort of, like, military framework that
Oh, yeah.
we know the guy's gonna be here for muster or whatever the thing is, we're gonna pull him in,
Yeah.
and then, they read him his rights, and then you like, 2 plainclothes guys are there being like, "Hey, your day just got a lot worse," right?
Yeah. And if they were fugitives, like, if they really went bananas and murdered someone and ran for it, we called the FBI, and the FBI brought in their fugitive team and their SWAT team.
I'd imagine jurisdictions would always be kind of interesting as part of the federal government as a military agent within the OSI, and then being able to kind of hand off with, the FBI or any other agencies in
Yeah.
the area. I really did enjoy a lot of that in your book as well. It was kind of understanding the hierarchies of how, and not hierarchy in the sense of one is better than the other, but how we just work together to
Mhm.
solve a collective problem. I thought that was really interesting. All
Yeah.
right, so now you're in Norman, Oklahoma, station of 3. And what is your, like, first day like when you get to this place? Are they welcoming? Are they like, "What's up, fresh meat?" Are they how is it when you're checking in?
I think I really lucked out. I know I really lucked out because I had a really senior agent who was a Vietnam era Navy corpsman,
Uh,
and, we'll call him Castle. I'm writing my 2nd book, and he's my 2nd book. I just refer to him as Castle.
okay.
And then my training agent was the next he was the more junior guy. He still had 7 years in as a special agent, and he had, I don't know, 5 or 8 years as a Greenville, North Carolina police sergeant. And, so these guys came out of investigative career fields. One of them went to the Citadel, one of them was Navy corpsman. Like, I lucked out, like, I hit the lottery with these dudes. Don't know 'em, like, I called them in advance. It's something that I think I learned in the military, like, call your next duty station and say, "This is me. Here's when to expect me. What do you need from me when I show up?" And they were cool. They were like, "Yeah, just show up." Like, we start at 0700. So I show up at 0600 thinking like, and I got my best suit on. I got my very nicest suit on. I got my white shirt. I'm very Hoover looking. My, hair's cut. I have like a little briefcase and my gun's clean and everything. And I go, I knock on the door and they're both like They've been there since 5.
Wow.
And that's just their normal duty day, like, they just show up at 5, and Castle's smoking a cigarette. He's standing in the corner, they're not I mean, it's 1999, it's no smoking allowed. He's just sitting in the corner just smoking a cigarette and drinking coffee, and the other guy, I call him Mag in the book, he's this freakish, athletic, fit like, he's like the agent's agent,
Yeah.
but he's also a Choctaw Indian, and he kinda wears his hair kinda long, and he dresses down, and they're just cool. They're like, "Hey, man, come in, have a seat. Here's where your office is. We got these 9 cases are yours now." And I was like, "Yeah, roger that, roger that. Let me
Yes,
s enter."
sir. Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
there's just mountains of evidence. I actually thought it was a practical joke. Like, I got there and there's boxes of we call green sheets or evidence sheets. We literally print it on green paper so it jumps out.
Okay.
There's boxes of evidence with green sheets on it, and there's boxes of subpoenaed bank documents, and I'm like, all right, they're screwing with me, cool, I get it, like, they just put all these props in here.
Like scare the new guy.
No, it's for real, it's 100% for real. They're like, "That's an old fugitive case, that guy still needs to get run down, you got 3 bank robberies from the southern part of the state, we have a domestic terrorism case that we're working, we got 2 bank frauds, there's a death in Indian country, all these are yours and they're all behind and you've gotta get after it." I was like, "Oh, okay."
Oh,
So, what I told you earlier about leaving Quantico thinking like, I feel prepared.
yeah.
I did feel prepared, like, when they were like, You need to drive halfway across the state and interview an absentee Shawnee woman who beat her sister to the edge of death with a cow bone." Real case. I'm not making that part up. I was like, "Yeah, I know how to get there. I know how to handle myself. I know how to interact with the local police. I know how to conduct a good interview. I can collect evidence." I was not prepared for the breadth and depth of investigations. I had white collar, violent crime, drug cases, embezzlement, counterterrorism, fugitives,
Just like this
just
full spectrum
yeah.
of everything. I mean, so how do you like how does your brain switch between having to be able to have a conversation with somebody that's like embezzlement versus this person who's beat another person to the edge of their life? Like,
It was upsetting to think about the fact that I would never this sounds bad, but I'm just gonna level with you. I would never give every case the level of attention it really deserved. It's just like there's 3 of us and we had 6 counties and we had 800 types of investigations. They gave me this book of the 800 codes that we use for like a 91 it's a bank robbery. And we had 800 types of cases that we managed,
wow.
hundreds of local police, sheriff's departments, police officers, state police that we supported that were regularly calling us and saying, "We can't do this if you guys don't come help." Um, so I ended up just throwing myself into my work. The bureau standard is for a special agent is you work no fewer than 10 hours a day on average. So 50-hour work week is totally the norm. You go below that, they cut your pay. And it's not like you get overtime for those 50 hours. Like that's just your
Just the understood.
yeah, it's called you get like an availability pay, which is a sort of a standard rate pay, but so I was averaging 60, 70 hours a week, and I was really letting my marriage suffer. You know, we were pretty early in our marriage, so we were kinda coasting, but I regret the coasting I did. I didn't have kids yet,
Mhm.
and so I just joined in these 2 guys where I was showing up at 5 AM and I was working till 8 PM. I worked every weekend. Like, if we got a fugitive call out on a I remember walking out of church, like pager went off, dating myself, pager go off, go find a phone, fugitive, and I'd be like, "Hey, babe, can you find a ride home with someone else? I'm gonna go work," you know?
So what was the preparatory conversations you had with your wife before going into the FBI? And then what were some of the conversations when you're like, okay, hey, can you find a ride home? Like, how did
Yeah, yeah.
that all like work through?
Well, it's not necessarily good, but she was a little bit prepared for it because life of a Air Force sortie generation officer is a lot the same.
Okay.
I was an officer in charge of 12 multimillion-dollar jets and had about 100 troops that were in my squadron and about 6 senior NCOs that were my teammates. And if a jet needed to be launched for an overseas like, if we needed to refuel a B-1 because it was going on a clandestine drop one kinda bomb kinda mission, it was get up right now. I mean, that's I had kinda had to live on base, almost within walking distance of the hangar.
Oh, okay.
So it was like she was used to me getting up all hours of the night, and I'm on base housing, in a officer's street, and your rank is on the door. And I remember about a year in her saying, "No one here is gone like you are. Like, the guy across the street is a pilot, and he's always home." And I said, "Yeah, they only fly 2 sorties a month. I mean, that's all they get. They
They
wanna
have like
fly
a
more, but."
kind of set schedule that
Yeah,
they get to kind of build around.
yeah, and they go in to use the gym, they go in to hang out with the guys, but, and then she's like, "What about that guy?" And, well, I'm like, "That guy works at motor pool, and all the buses work." Like, he's a captain in charge of motor pool, but I'm a lieutenant in charge of all these jets, and it just never ends.
Yeah.
So, when I got into OSI, they interviewed her separate from me, and afterwards, she told me this guy came over to our house actually and asked me to leave. Came over to base housing and was like, "Hey, can you take off for a minute while I interview your wife?" I was like, "Okay." And one of the things he asked her was, "How would you react if the phone rang in the middle of the night and your husband answers the phone and he's like, 'Hey, it's fine. It's fine, sweetie. I'll be right there. I'll be right there. Meet me at, 5th by the 7-Eleven. Everything's gonna be alright." And then he just looked at you and said, "It's a work thing." And, the guy was asking this because he's like, "If you're working with an informant who's a female and she's in crisis and the base ops patches you through to your base phone, your home phone on base, you're gonna use this very kind, affectionate,
Mm.
calm down. Do you tr" And she was like, "No, 100%. Like, I just know him. Like, I'm not worried about that at all." So, by the time I'm in the FBI, I think she's sort of prepared for
Okay.
10, 12-hour days.
And there's a lot so yeah, I like this, how they're so the career in the Air Force, helped, I would say, nurture an understanding of what you were about to enter into within the FBI to be able to associate those days. That's really, really strong, and it makes it even that more special that you have a familial unit that is able to understand rather than, I would say, just draw down on you every time that you've missed something or every time that you've had to leave somewhere because the job calls for it. I think that's actually really special, of a relationship to have. Okay, so you step into this place, you have 800 different variances of cases that you can handle, and you're spread pretty thin. What does the first 18 months look like, on this job?
So, it's funny that you bring up 18 months because the first 18 months you're on probation,
Mhm.
and it's pretty easy to cut you loose during that probationary period. So, I poured myself into the job to the detriment of my marriage a little bit. I mean, we did fine, and we still are fine, but I and it's easy to do when you like, if you have a kidnapped child, man, that's just of course I'll do that. Like,
Yeah.
it's a little bit harder with, like, a bank embezzlement. It just seems like a crime on paper, but still, I mean, I was really motivated to do it, but I remember within that 18-month period feeling like, I mean, people were saying they're like, "Bro, your eyes are baggy all the time and didn't sleep." I'm like, "I don't." Like, I think I kinda learned this in the Air Force and at the Air Force Academy is you can just power through not getting sleep. 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night, I'm good to go. And I was not. I was getting sick a lot, and I was fatigued a lot, and I was like, I had just given up working out any kind of, like, real resistance training,
Mhm.
and everyone was seeing it. I remember I was you had to file reviews every quarter, you have to write up everything you've done, all your cases, and you have to show progress on everything. And the way we did it in the old days, you literally, like, had to put on a suit and a tie, had to drive about an hour and a half to the field office, go to my supervisor's desk, meet with his secretary. She would give me these stacks of my actual paper files, and I'd have a monster stack of paper files, and I'd have to go in and set them down in the chair next to me, and he would just sit behind his desk, and he'd be like, "All right, 91 AOC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6," and I'd have to pull that one out, and he would have marked my last investigative step. I'm like, "All right, since then, I enhanced the video from this bank robbery. I've got fingerprint analysis. I did a latent lift from the and that I'm waiting on that to come back from headquarters, and then I found a Ring camera across the street, and I'm pulling that." I had to kinda tell him, like, "I'm making progress, I'm making progress, I'm making
Okay.
progress?" And, so I'm up in headquarters, and I got my gigantic stack of crap. I think your first year you do file reviews every month. So I'm doing this every month. And this senior agent, female, 20 years in, walks up, she's like, "You okay? You look sick." I'm like, I get that all the time now. She's like, "Are you okay?" And I go, "Yeah, I don't think anybody understands the volume of work." I'm kinda showing her my stack of cases. And she's like, "Sweetie, this job will kill you. 20 years from now, when this organization divorces you, you better hope your wife doesn't."
Oh.
And it hit home, man. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't even know what my wife's plan is today. Like, I just got up at 5 a.m. and jumped into it, and I'm desperately trying to serve these people who have been victimized, but I'm not serving her well. So I started sort of throttling back early. Like, I never really paced myself super well my whole career, but that first 18 months was a lesson in you can't save them all. You gotta do the very best with what you can with every minute of every day, and then you have to shut it off and go home and go love your kids and hug your wife and woo her
Yep.
and get in the gym. And for me as a Christian, like, get in the word and have some buddies.
Mhm.
And, it took me a long, long time to really start to get that right, but that first few months, I almost completely burned out.
I could only imagine. I mean, it's like a sprint, right? You come out of the gate and you're running full steam because again, you've worked very hard for this. You've had a lot of adversity to get to where you're at, and you want to do a good job because now you're in the game, you're in the show, and you want to you want to do as well as you can for this. I really like. There's a saying as well as the Marine Corps, very similar. Was the Marine Corps is going to end one day, and when that's done, right, you better hope that you have a family or whatever it is that you want is still there, because the Marine Corps will always ask for more, and it will always demand more. There's never an end clock to it. There's no clocking in and clocking out. I'm very similar in the instances, to the FBI is what it sounds like in that and you start working for love of the game, but if you don't put yourself for first,
Mhm.
whatever that is, mentally, spiritually, physically, family, um, you could end up, pretty empty after the rodeo ends.
Yeah.
What does that kind of schedule look like?
That's a great question. So the first thing I need to divide up is what life was like in an RA, which is much more a jack of all trades,
Okay.
and what life was like for a lot of my friends and my future teammates in a field office. So in the field office, the boss is there, like the SAC, the ASACs, all the supervisors, all the
What is
admin
an
staff.
SAC?
Special agent in charge
Okay.
is an SES level executive, so it's above GS 15,
Oh, wow.
who is really, I hate to use military equivalents, but I mean, they're the commander.
Cool.
They have the kind of authority to, like, pull cash out of a drawer, uh, make special decisions that, like, a commander would make, like, remove and reassign someone on the spot whimsically. Like,
Okay.
SAC is no joke, and so there's 56 SACs in the 56 field offices, and to some degree, they're the kings of their fiefdoms. I mean, they report to the director, but they have a lot of latitude. So the field office is very structured. The bosses are around, um, and they have squads. So, like, when I got there, we had a drug squad. As I progressed through the bureau, we stopped doing drug squad, but we had mandatory cyber squads. When I first got there, we sort of had a national security squad that did all the cloak and dagger stuff. And then after, I don't know when exactly, we used to actually split up where there was a counterintelligence squad and a counterterrorism squad because they overlap a little, but they're very different animals. So, but they're always squads. And so, like, a lot of my buddies, when I got onto the SWAT team, were on we called it VCMO, violent crime major offender.
Mm.
So they were doing fugitives, bank robberies, cartel level drug stuff. But their job was pretty, like, if there was a cyber intrusion, they didn't care. If you're on the cyber squad and a kid got kidnapped, I mean, you might care, but, like, you weren't running out.
Okay.
So everyone kinda had their lane,
Okay.
and so it was a little easier for my buddies in the field offices to schedule their days. They might have something reactive, like, you're in the VCMO squad and there's a bank robbery, everybody jumps up and runs out the door.
Okay.
Um, for us in the RAs, we worked everything that our territory needed from us. So I worked I mean, I worked I was a lead agent. I was the case agent on some cyber investigation cases, but I'd have to call in specialists. I'd say, "Hey, listen, someone hacked the mainframe at the hospital and the server's locked up and they literally can't treat patients that are in surgery. So I would be running the investigation, but I'd have a cyber guy come. So, but like I was saying, that it was chaos because I'm working Indian country violent crime, counterintelligence, bank crimes. I'm putting on a suit to go meet a banker, and then I'll take that suit off, and I'd put in jeans and a t-shirt, and I'd run out and do fugitive leads. And then I might run back and put on like a khaki and a polo to go to Indian country. So I'm like, I'm sort of official looking, but don't have the black suit intimidating.
Casual,
Yeah. I'm like, I didn't realize how many times I had to have outfit changes to do this job. Uh, but and then there's still we'd have a death in Indian country. Stop what you're doing, go do that. Kidnapping, everyone stop, go do that. And so the three of us really got to be really tight knit. And then what surprised me is that sometimes I get a fugitive lead and I'm like, guys, I got a fugitive lead. This guy's a top 10. He was spotted down in southern Oklahoma. I'm gonna roll. Can you guys come with me? And they're like, I can't. Like, I'm literally getting ready to go into a courtroom and testify.
Oh yeah.
I got to go put on a suit. I'm out. And the other guy's like, I absolutely cannot. I've got a grand jury appearance, and if I don't get this indictment today, this case fails. And so
This
the
person
thing that
walks.
I remember putting on my armor under my suit and like putting up my pistol and then putting like a backup pistol on my ankle and having a couple of spare mags and thinking like, this is nuts. I'm like 30 years old on my own
Yeah.
looking for a top 10 murder fugitives. And so I learned real quick I made buddies with all the locals. And at first I thought they would be like the movies. They were like, "Oh, okay, Phoebe, they were the coolest. I'd show up to a little rural sheriff's department and go, hey man, you don't know me. I don't know you. I'm going to go knock on this door where someone said they saw a top 10 fugitive. Do you guys want to come?" They had shotguns out, they were like, hell yeah, bro. They're so excited. And then I remember one in particular working a fugitive lead, and I realized we're driving out of the county into the adjacent county, and I look at this deputy and I go, "Hey, are we cool? Because we just left your jurisdiction." And he's like, "Dude, I'm working for you now, man. Like, whatever, I'm with you. I'm cool." I was like, "Okay, let's do this." And so it was a surprising amount of solo work,
Wow.
an enormous variety work. But I mean, I love the variety.
You
It
know,
was a
you
little
mentioned one of the things that I learned from the book was a lot more of the jurisdiction. As a private citizen, I just don't understand a lot of this stuff or even know that it exists. But you mentioned Indian country, and part of your roles and responsibilities, you list the number of, of like, is sovereign the right term? But like
yeah,
Indian territory
yeah.
that is owned by them, but falls under federal jurisdiction. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
It's a little bit more complicated because 'cause we're in Oklahoma, and Oklahoma was at one point all Indian land. Some people would argue still all is Indian land, and we just started building on it, we the white people. I'm also Cherokee, so maybe I can say they built on our land. I don't know.
I like
Uh,
it. I like it.
but you understand. So
Mhm.
Oklahoma's weird because it's this chessboard of trust land. There aren't reservations like they have in the movies where you like, "We're on the res now, we're off the res now." I literally had cases. I had a bludgeoning case where a guy got beat to the edge of his life by some angry kid, both tribal members. And when he finally took us to where the assault happened, he literally stepped a foot out of, uh, the Indian trust land into the county land. And so, had he said he was telling me that it was a fight. He's like, "Yeah, we had a fight." He bludgeoned his skull open with a skill saw, but he at least admits to injuring this guy. I'm like, "So where did the fist fight happen?" He's like, "Right here." And I had to get my GPS out and check my GPS, and I'm like, "Shoot, we are 1 foot out of tribal trust land." Inside tribal trust land, that assault I can prosecute with the US Attorney's Office, easy peasy, like we do every day. Now we're a foot into the county. I called the US Attorney's Office, and they're like, "Man, I can't charge a deadly assault there. I could do a mi" this is a real conversation. He said, "I could do a misdemeanor unlawful use of a motor vehicle." Like, "What will he get for that?" Like, "Probably a fine, 6 months." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"No, he beat a man to the edge of his life." And so now I'm like, "Hold on, I gotta hang up. I gotta call the DA." And so I'm calling the county's office saying, "I know you don't know me, but I have this case." And they're like, "Well, we didn't work that case. Why would we prosecute that case?"
Oh gosh.
"Well, this guy, he beat another guy into a coma and he's probably going to die." And they're like, "Well, are you on the docket?" For like, "No, I'm not on anything. I'm asking you." And they're like, "We don't prosecute FBI cases." And I'm constantly telling the DAs, district attorneys, "You can't. I can give you all of my reports and I will serve as your investigator and I will testify in court and I will see this through. I'll do everything."
But you
Now,
have to be the lead. You have to
all
be the point.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I just don't have an attorney that has the authority to charge this crime on this piece of land. And sometimes the DAs were like, "That's kinda awesome."
Yeah, right.
I
So
want I
I
want
got all this for free?
Yeah, yeah. They really were like, "This is great because 'cause I'm like, I can get all this evidence. I can get the evidence back in 3 weeks, whereas the state lab might take a year." And there were DAs that were like, "Man, I'm not comfortable with that. I declined to prosecute this case." And that one in particular, which still haunts me to this day, that kid never went to jail. The closest I could get to justice on that case, that bludgeoning, was he enlisted in the Army, and I called his CO and told him, I like, "There's a legitimate FBI investigation. I'm confident this kid bludgeoned a man into a coma because he wanted to take his car to get drunk and party. And after he bludgeoned him, he left him in the back of his station wagon to die.
Wow.
And I'm a veteran, and I've been overseas, and I love this country, and I'm not telling you what you should do, but I don't want him in my
I
armed
just need you
forces."
to know. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was like, "Roger that, sir, roger that." He was like, that was it. So they sent him home. Um, but yeah, and the jurisdiction thing was a constant challenge, specifically in Oklahoma, knowing, are you on Indian trust land? Are they like, I would have to verify, are they a tribal member?
Mhm.
I have to get a GPS coordinate and prove they're where they were. And if they weren't, then I had an alternate route. I had to go figure out who will try this case for me so that it goes before a jury.
Your desire to do right and you having as many tools as possible to do what you believe is right, and I found that is really resonating as we've gone through this. How do you so after this 18 months, you try out for SWAT, is that correct?
That's right.
Okay, and what does that entail as you're starting this SWAT tryout, phase?
I was really looking forward to it. I knew that I had to get off probation before I could try out.
Okay.
And Mag, my training agent, but also my partner, um, he was on the team, and so I got to see him going off on calls and coming back and see the gear he had, and I was pretty stoked, man. I gotta admit, I was like,
Yeah.
"This is cool stuff." So, when I go through in 2000, it's a pre-GWAT. It's black flight suits, woodland camo, BDUs, black combat boots with steel toes. We've got old black, like Vietnam era helmets with like the leather strap and
I
webbing.
I loved when you were describing those things, the cranial, like, headache you get
Oh,
oh,
oh yeah.
I'm
So
laughing.
yeah, but I'm still excited for it. Like I can't wait. I get my first MP5. And so the SWAT selection prior to this was the team leader came up with the selection protocol and he executed it and he became a part of the SWAT for that team. And it was much more, the paradigm was that, like, I was in Oklahoma, the SAC, the special agent in charge, the de facto commander, he had a SWAT unit to use for his team. And we would cross train with, like, we had a sister team in Kansas City and Dallas.
Mhm.
But for the most part, we did what our division needed. We were organic to our division. So it kind of made sense that selection was decided by our SWAT team leader, who's usually a military veteran and a senior operator. But when I went through, the Bureau was starting to move towards one team, one fight.
Mhm.
And so when I went through, they told me, they said, "We're gonna put you through a selection. We did not design it. It was designed by the SWAT operations unit in headquarters, and all 56 teams are executing this exact same selection this year. So whatever you heard before, it's not what you've heard, but whatever it is, the guys in LA and New York and Dallas, they're all going through this same selection, same standards." I loved it. Some guys were really resistant to it. They're like, I'll never take my Dallas patch off." New York team till the end, right? They were like, "I'm not wearing a national patch. I don't work for headquarters." And there's a lot of that.
Tribalism almost.
Oh, yeah, like,
Yeah.
I belong to Newark SWAT. They can screw their patch.
Yeah.
Well, I embraced it pretty quick because the idea of being part of this 1,000-man SWAT team located in 56 places made it easy to, like, we need one kinda gun, one kinda comms, one kinda crypto. We need
Yeah.
the same sort of armored vehicles. We need the same, ISR, the same aircraft. And now we're cross training and we're cross deploying, where we're getting a call and they're like, "Hey, they need you in Alabama to do a warrant. Dallas and Little Rock are already there backing them up." "Yep, hell yeah." "We need you to get on a plane and fly 8 hours away, and when you get there, HRT's already on the ground." Or, so I went through the standard selection. It was hard, but it wasn't like they were trying to kill you.
Sure. And I think that does make a lot of sense. Like the centralization of standards, the centralization and standardization of equipment, of tactics, it makes it so that LA can work with New Mexico, can work with Austin, can work with Alabama, right? So that you can just literally parachute in a team
Hmm.
if you needed to, and everything would be the same. The way that that totally makes sense from a military standpoint. But I do understand like the tribal nature of being like, yo, man, F that, right? Like I'm
Yeah,
not gonna go that way because I'm born and bred. This is the way that we do it here. Um,
for sure.
so you make it into the SWAT teams, which again, I am questioning my own career decisions after reading this book. It
I'm
sounds like a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I do have one question for you. Like the very first mission that you're on, I love the idea of how you're talking about the crappy gear that you're wearing at the time. And I can see where it's going. And I know that you allude to that as well, that you're going to get a lot better equipment.
Yeah.
But okay, I have some experience with animals in combat zones. The very first, few pages of the book, you're talking about these pit bulls that are on these chains, and this dog is running at you. Dude, what are you thinking when you see this, like, snarl devil beast coming at you? What are the thoughts running through your mind?
I I remember part of the hesitation was, I don't know, we don't have any protocols for shooting animals.
Yeah.
We spent thousands of hours at stats machines and in Hogan's Alley shooting sim guns at each other and shooting at the range on moving targets and everything, but I really didn't know, like, is this weapons clear? Like, can I just burn these animals down, you know?
Right.
Because 'Cause they're like, I don't know, get into a some of these animals I think might be permanently broken. Like, you could tell they'd been on chains their whole lives.
Yeah.
And, but I remember my big hesitancy was, will I get in trouble? Will I get written up
Yeah.
because I'm not sure. I can tell you exactly when I can and can't shoot a human, and I feel very confident about it, and I've been just pounded thousands of hours of rehearsal, but I remember them saying, "Here's your weapon." Thank God I wasn't the fire extinguisher guy. I think I talk about it in the book. The guy in front of me, they give him a fire extinguisher, and they're like, "If any of these pit bulls are not," because we're at night, and we either some guys have nods, some don't, and the guys that do, it's the old PVS 7,
Bravos.
that dude, yeah.
Duel into one
Yeah, with the one
with, like, a
you
skull
just
crusher. Yeah.
yes, skull crusher on and no field of view at all, and so I'm just yeah, I'm just Mark 1 eyeball looking at it and thinking, well, and there's also, like, 8 pit bulls. If I kill 8 pit bulls, someone's gonna say something.
Yeah.
But yeah, the guy in front of me's got a fire extinguisher, and they tell him, like, "Yeah, you hit a pit bull with a fire extinguisher." I was like, Are we sure about that?"
Yeah.
I've never heard that in my life.
Are you I read that and I was like, "That's the weapon that you gave this guy against it, but,
Yeah,
good luck, buddy." And
yeah,
that's tough because 'cause I'm an animal lover myself, and
yeah.
I've faced some pretty angry animals in Afghanistan specifically.
Oh, yeah.
I'm on a mountaintop in Afghanistan in the middle of nowhere, and they have these sheep herders that are just everywhere, and you're always like, no matter how much you try and what you do, you're going to get compromised by some goat herder somewhere, right? And so you have this little kid that's up in this mountaintop and they're looking for vegetation for their goats. And the way it's very funny because probably very similar, the way that we would wake each other up when we would catch our few minutes of sleep is if we knew that it was for us, for our own team SOP, if it was a non-emergency, my team member would squeeze my thigh and he'd wake me up by squeezing my thigh. That was like a, hey, wake up kind of thing. And then a rattle on the shoulder was like something's bad happening. And so my ATL, Joe, right, grabs my thigh and he squeezes because he's panicking because he can't move his arm. what happens with the goat herders is oftentimes they have these sheep dogs, these huge animals that are protecting the herd and protecting the kids. And there is one that we wake up and it is just growling at us, and they look like little miniature lions. And I don't have an SOP for what to do with the frickin' lion, right? As it's like staring down us, right? And so we're all trying to like, like whisper and figure out and not piss this animal off. And I'm an animal lover and I don't want to hurt the thing,
Mm.
but I also don't wanna get eaten by this thing, so I'm loving this line, right? You're like, "I'm not going to get the shot off. This is gonna suck." A voice behind me yelled, "Shoot, damn it," as a dog leapt into the air. Clack. The dog's chain ran out of the slack just a couple of feet from my face. Like,
Yeah.
what an incredible moment to be in, and then recognize, and that was, again, this is your first, I think your first mission on a SWAT team, is you're now having to see these, like, scenarios that you weren't trained for, and then having to step into this. I mean, kudos to you for having the wherewithal to pause for a second and then have the leash take care of this guy. But I did laugh at that as you kinda went through, because I've dealt with those same scenarios myself.
Getting older hits you in these little ambushes you don't see coming. One day you wake up and the knees sound like you're stepping on a bag of pretzels. Recovery takes longer than the workout itself, and the hairline, well, it starts its own retrograde operation. I've felt all of that, especially after years of wear and tear overseas and in training, which is exactly why I'm obsessed with Bubs Naturals. Not because someone handed me a script, but because it actually helped me feel like I took some ground back. Most people don't realize this, but somewhere in your mid 20s, your body quietly starts producing less collagen every year. And collagen is basically the connective tissue of your life. It keeps your joints moving, your skin healthy, your hair and nails strong. Once it drops, you feel it. Bubs collagen peptides have been a way to rebuild some of what time, and in my case, the Marine Corps took out of me. My joints hurt less, recovery feels cleaner, and even small things like nails and skin look healthier. It's not magic, it's just replacing what your body stopped making. And it couldn't be easier. I throw one scoop into my morning coffee, it dissolves instantly. No grit, no taste, no weird science experiment texture, just coffee that happens to make me feel noticeably better. But here's where Bubs is different from every other supplement company out there. The entire brand is a tribute to Glenn "Bub" Doherty, a Navy SEAL who gave his life saving Americans in Benghazi. Glenn was the kind of guy who dedicated himself to lifting others up, and that ethos is the backbone of this company. They donate 10% of all profits to charity, starting with the Glenn Doherty Memorial Foundation. And they back up that legacy with standards most companies won't even attempt. No sugar, no fillers, no junk. Third-party tested, NSF certified for sport. If you want to live better longer, Bubs is giving our listeners 20% off for a limited time. Just head to bubsnaturals.com and use the code COMBAT at checkout. And after you order, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please make sure to tell them it was Combat Story. It genuinely supports the show and helps us keep bringing these conversations to you. And now, back to our show.
What is the term, swearing out? That's a term I'm unfamiliar with. Can you describe what that is?
When you, go before a judge or go before a grand jury, with a probable cause affidavit, which is a document that says, "This is why I believe this is true. I believe that this guy is a drug dealer and that he's selling heroin from Mexico, and here's why. I tapped his phone and this. I sent an undercover agent and they did this. I've looked at his bank records, it's this." So you're laying out your probable cause, which is lawyer speak for like a reasonable belief. So you go to swear out is to literally you're gonna go stand before a judge or a jury, put on a suit, raise your right hand, and swear what I'm about to say is the truth.
And so,
And
like,
then they
plead your case
yeah,
effectively to get
yeah,
a warrant?
yeah,
And this is the first time I see this is forgive me if I pronounce the name, Zacharias Moussaoui?
right, yeah,
And that's 9/11, right?
yeah.
Can you go through a little bit of that story, please?
Well, so everyone remembers where they were on 9/11, so I won't go into it a lot, but I remember I was just sitting at my desk watching a black and white TV with my partner, Mag, when we see it go down, and we're still sort of in the pager bag phone era, but we get pages. And I think it was just a, "We don't know what we need you to do, we just need every SWAT operator on standby." And so they called us all to the city, and, you know, w I don't know, no one knows. No one knows who attacked us or why, but the Bureau is already moving 1,000 miles an hour, and trying to unpack. The Bureau's core traditional mission, which it really still is after a crime happens, we will always solve it. And whoever did it, we will always catch them. I'm a little bit on a tangent right now, but I wanna try to convey that to, like, your listeners that the Bureau is not a crime prevention agency. So after 9/11, when I heard people saying, "I can't believe you guys didn't stop it," I was shell shocked. I was like, "What do you we don't prevent bank robberies, we don't prevent kidnappings,
Mm.
we don't prevent murder. We've never been the crime or terrorism prevention agency. We're detectives. Whatever happened, we'll prove the facts. What did or did not happen, swear it out in an affidavit. If they issue me a warrant, and we will find them no matter what."
And
Like,
bring that
dude,
person or
yes,
persons to justice.
right. So 9/11, we're all thinking traditional Bureau. We have to figure out who did this, prove who it is, and then bring them to justice.
That's an
So
interesting distinction, actually, and that's one that I didn't know myself. I'll admit my own ignorance is you're not crime prevention, right? You know, you're crime, I would say, solving and
yes,
capturing and bringing to justice. Interesting.
yes,
I love that.
yeah.
Thank you.
So we're already thinking, man, who did this? How do we prove it? How do we catch it? Everyone across the nation is scouring their cases, their informants. And they just sent us to the city and they put us on a rooftop, which sounds stupid now, but at the time they're like, how many more planes
Mm.
in the air? You know, if the air system's shut down, if you had to, I remember standing on the roof of the headquarters with a fully automatic 10 millimeter MP5 and the jet was flying. And so no one's supposed to be flying and there's a jet. And I'm like, do I shoot it?
What?
Like, I don't know what to do. I shoot it with a 10 mil, you know? And then once we start getting our footing, they're like, you guys have to go back to Norman, which is where my resident agency was, and serve this warrant for a guy named Zacharias Musawi. And I don't know anything. I'm just like, yeah, Roger that. We race back down there. And the US attorney, I had a good relationship with them, but it's not me picking on them. They don't leave their office that much. So I was surprised to see one of the federal prosecutors standing in the parking lot, like working on getting this affidavit sworn out and this warrant, like right now. And they're like, we need SWAT guys. Here's another thing I like about the Bureau is they're like, we need you to serve this warrant. And immediately someone goes, let me see it. I love that about the Bureau guys. It's like, we're going to go get this drug dealer. It was very normal to say, hey, can I see your probable cause affidavit? I'd like to see what facts you took before a judge or jury. I'd like to see if I think your case is sound. And the response would always be, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
I love that.
Very high level professional. Like, yeah, come
Yeah.
take a look at my notes,
Yeah.
man. Let's get in here. Okay.
So I remember like Mag, my partner and my training agent's like, hey, can I see your probable cause affidavit? And I'm reading over his shoulder and he's talking about how this guy's a terrorist and trained overseas and is part of this plot to fly jets, a scheduled, planned operation to murder Americans with our own aircraft. And then they're like, and so from where we are, they're like, that's his apartment. So we go, we stack and we actually, I worked really closely with the university. I got the key rather than kick we also we had no, we knew where he was and we knew he wasn't in the apartment, but the Twin Towers are literally still on fire. So we go get the key and we actually do like a slow key turn, door check, prep, and then breach, enter, and clear. And it's not exciting, but it's flight simulator with a picture of a jumbo jet flying by the Twin Towers and a prayer rug and the Quran. And in his closet, just a whole bunch of shirts of his face, like in Times Square, silk screened onto a shirt. It's super creepy and surrealistic. I remember thinking, there's so much we don't know right now. I want to know everything about it. In fact, that was kind of the point where I was like, if the Bureau doesn't let me work this terrorism case, I'll come out of my skin. I have to be part of the solution to this case.
Oh my.
So,
So you
yeah.
were in his. So, and this is days.
This is
After
this is in hours. This is within
hours?
probably 2 hours after the Twin Towers are struck.
Well, I have to give you guys a lot of credit for, I mean, I was also very young at the time when this happened, but within hours, right? So like being able to trace back who this person, who these people were, where's this network, and then all of a sudden saying, "Hey, they've got a location," and now within hours, the FBI is in Zacharias Moussaoui's house and conducting an investigation. What
Yeah.
Okay, so I do remember the portion in the book where he had pictures of his face screen printed of him
Yeah.
in what was that about?
I don't know. It looked like the sort of thing you would get if you were a tourist
Okay.
in Times Square, where someone would take your picture and then they would make it look like your face was on the jumbotron, and then you would wear it back to wherever you lived as like a, "Hey, everybody, look, I was in Times Square once." That's all I could think of, but there were several of them, and it was the only thing in his closet.
Okay, so after this moves on, now America is kind of on high alert. There's a lot of things happening. FBI SWAT seems like it's getting a little bit more funding, a lot more centralization and standardization of equipment, as well as tactics. You did take a quite of a little bit of a detour. Um, how did you come up with the term or the call sign for you as J Money?
We did have a team tradition of giving out nicknames, and they were never cool. I always told new operators, "If you're holding out for Turbo or Razor, it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna be horrible, but it's not gonna be cool."
Right.
And, I was in a weird position where I got on the team. I'm a big firearms aficionado, always have been. And when I got my first BB gun in middle school, man, I shot that thing till it was a smooth bore. The day I turned 18, I bought my first shotgun. The day I turned 20, I mean, I love to shoot, and so I became a firearms instructor, surprisingly quickly. Like, before I got on the SWAT team, I was a firearms instructor. And I get on the SWAT team, and we have a proclivity for wanting to be taught by operators.
Mhm.
So we really didn't want a senior firearms instructor from the division coming out to train us because sometimes there was nuance to, like, stance. If they're like, "Well, you wanna square up with the target, you want your feet just slightly shoulder width apart, and then you want this isosceles stance." We're like, "No, cool, I get it. We don't clear rooms like that."
Correct.
So, it was me and the guy just barely senior to me with little toe, and so he used to be the rookie on the team. Now me and these 3 other guys are rookies on the team. He and I are the only 2 firearms instructors on I think we were probably 25 man team. And, I'm very comfortable in my ability to shoot and teach people to shoot. Love it. And, but these are all these seasoned operators, a lot of them like combat vets, Panama vets, stuff like that. And they're saying, "Hey, we want you to come up with training. We wanna do CQB training. We wanna do, long range rifle craft. We wanna do close range pistol craft, transitions, weak side shoulder." Like, the team leader's given me, "I wanna do this, 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 and this. Come up with a training protocol for a, 8-hour training day." And then send it out to the team and tell them. So where I'm going with this is now I gotta sit down at my desk and write an email to all these senior operators when I am full on rookie, and then tell them, "All right, we start at the range at 0500. We're gonna start in armor and plates. We're gonna start helmet, comms, full kit. I know it's gonna be hot. We're gonna dejock as the day goes on, but go ahead and start out battle loadout. I'm not gonna tell you your first drill. We're gonna shoot a cold qual." And I'm writing, and I'm like, "They're gonna kick my."
Mhm.
So I would write these goofy. I would start out with like, "Hey, paper cut warriors and Al Qaeda fighters," like something silly. And then I would always end with just some sort of, I didn't know how to be self-deprecating, so I would write like the most obnoxious fake rapper name. So I would write like DJ Stank Freshness,
Yep.
MC Gat Master, just something to let the guys know I am not senior. I'm sorry that I'm coming up with a training plan for
Sure.
you. So that's how I showed my humility.
It's like a nod, like, "Hey, I get it," right?
Yeah,
I am a weapons expert. I am not a tactics guy right now.
yeah.
Like, I get it. I get that.
So about the 3rd, 4th, 5th time I send that out, the team leader responds to everyone and says, "Thanks, J Money." And I'm like, "Wait, what the hell just happened?" My last email, I think I said DJ, like J Money Freshness or something. And he shortened it to J Money. And if that didn't stick for 21 straight years, I don't know what did. Like, that stuck. And I'm like, certainly no one will call me that because it's just silly. It doesn't mean anything. And
A lot of foreshadowing there.
to this day, like, I can call old teammates to this day that are in another state in their retirement job, and when they pick up the phone, they're like, "What's that money?" I mean, it is there to stay, so, yeah.
And it's great, you know, it's a good way of, of another layer of camaraderie, and I love how you can't pick it. Yeah, I've had some pretty, um nobody could pronounce my last name ever.
Mm.
And so I had, Pashuti, which turned into Papoopy, which turned into Pea-shooty, which turned into Poopy, and I was like, and I hated all of them. And
Oh, yeah.
the worst thing in the world that you could do is ever show your disdain for a nickname that someone's gonna give you, because then it's like bullies, like, it just sticks, right? So I
Yes.
hated Papoopy. Oh, god. And it's on a plaque behind me, you know? I'm like, "God dang it, I can't run away from that." So,
Yeah.
I do have some questions about, white llamas. Can you go into that story a little bit?
Oh, yeah, this was a good op. It was a legit hostage rescue op, which is you don't want people to ever get taken hostage, but if they do, you kinda wanna be on call when it happens, like, those are good ops. Those if you're gonna lay down your life for someone whose life is literally in jeopardy. So, short version is we get this middle of the day, everyone rally here right now, and we're just heading towards a grid coordinate. There's already helicopters in the air, there's already, like, RV command posts set up, and we get briefed. Our team leader, his call sign was Big Toe, solid, like, legit, like, Magnum PI mustache. I don't know if anybody will get that reference, but Tom Selleck mustache, just like a good dude, like a big former Army, Ranger, school graduate dude, and he's just like, "Everybody circle up. This guy went to Kansas, and he kidnapped this girl, and she's in that trailer" not a trailer, it was like an old shack over the hill against her will, and, we can't wait any longer. So guys are driving in from if you know Oklahoma, they're driving in from Tulsa and Oklahoma City and everywhere. And to an area that's in Kearney, Oklahoma, which is pretty close. It's I'm actually the closest office. So the team leader's doing a good job of regulating, like, "We can't do this. We're 4 or 5 guys. How many guys do we have before we're mission capable?" And when he gets to some number, he's like, "That's it. Whoever gets here next, we'll put them to work, but you" I don't remember, 6 or 8? "You guys are gonna be the emergency hostage rescue contingency plan. If something goes wrong, you get in that truck right now and you go over there and you do what we just trained to do all the time. We don't know this time we don't know the layout of the house. We don't know what he looks like. We don't know what she looks like. We don't know anything about guns, but if he starts killing people, go and figure it out." And then he said, "We have 4" well, we had several snipers, but for whatever reason, he'd put me on the assault team as the point man right behind the shield, and then he'd set out my other teammates as snipers. One-man teams, which sucks a lot.
Mhm.
Thick Oklahoma cedar forest.
We know
They
your affiliation for Cedar, as we get to
Yes.
later on.
Yeah. I was kinda glad. I'm like, I do like sniper stuff, but I was so pumped to be point man on the entry team. That sounds weird, but, like, I was excited to do it
Yeah.
because it was so important and I got to be part of the solution. But the snipers go out and we clear the house. It's empty, which we're expecting to go into this brutal gunfight. And so every room we're like, he's in here, bang it, clear it. Okay. Okay, probably in the next room. Let's go. Bang it, clear it. Okay, he's not in this room. Let's check
Dude, the
the attic.
adrenaline spike
Oh yeah.
and the fall between each thing, like,
Yeah.
your ability, and I would say the restraint that you and your teammates showed throughout the entire book itself and all of your stories is the ability to go from, like, 100 down to 0 very, very quickly and then ramp right back up. I'm sure that took an emotional toll.
Yeah. We end up clearing the whole structure and then we re-clear it and we get on the radio and we tell the command post, there is no one in this building. And so the snipers are all they're all doing Overwatch. They're doing kinetic Overwatch. So if the guy runs it out of the door and comes around the back entrance to ambush us or something, like, we've got eyes on from the Sierras. And so they're even realizing, like, why are we even looking at this house? And so they're on the talk net and they hear me saying that how we're certain the house is clear. And then I see this dusty old-fashioned glass case gun cabinet that doesn't keep anyone from stealing your guns. and it's open, and it's the whole house is just filthy. There's this clean spot where a rifle's missing. I just got the heebie-jeebies. I was like, "Dude was seen in here. We know that he tied up a girl and drove her here. He's not here, and he took a gun." And so I'm telling the snipers, like, you guys aren't on Overwatch anymore. You guys are in hunt mode right now. Like, you guys are this is a recce mission for you now. This is not an Overwatch mission."
Correct, and there's a potential that they're being hunted at this
Absolutely, right? So, and some of the guys told me later, they were like, "I went from comfortably behind my rifle in the woods of Oklahoma to eyes in the back of my head, wishing that I had brought 5 mags for my pistol."
Yep.
And, so we go out, we start preparing for the next phase because we gotta change plans now. And one of my teammates, Wiley, still a great friend, he just gets on the radio and he keys up and you can hear it in his voice. He's like, OC1 is the team leader's call sign,
Okay.
and OC2 is the second command. So Little Toe is OC2, and he knows that OC1 is locked in the command post, and OC2 is actually like commander on the ground. He keys
Okay.
up OC2, Sierra 2. I have a contact. I have a man in a white t-shirt, 50 yards from your location, bearing 050. And so I have an ACOG on my rifle. I got my rifle snapped up. I'm scanning through the ACOG. I'm like, okay, nope, I'm getting out behind this tree. I'm gonna lean out behind this tree. I'm like, we are danger close. This guy probably could have been killing us this whole time.
Yeah, he's 50 meters from you guys.
Yeah. And I'm keying my radio and I'm like, CR2, say again, give me that position again. And and he's like, stand by. I'm like, screw stand by. Let's go. And he's just he's sheep. You can hear his voice again sheepishly. He goes, disregard. I'm like, negative. Where's the positive contact?
Right, yeah. You can't
He's
just
like
disregard this, right? Yeah.
he's like, there's no man in a white t-shirt. And we're like, say again, where's the threat? And he finally says, it was a white llama. And I called him when I wrote this book because it's such a fun story. But I called him and I was like, bro, would you kill me if I write that? And he's like, he's like 100% put it in the book for sure. I'm like, I think some people could figure out who you are if they needed to. He's like, no, 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 man, it's a good. He said, I'll own it. I'll own it. And so, yeah, he at the end of the day, he got a photo lineup with 5 dudes in white t-shirts and a white llama.
I
But he still has to this day.
Dude, I love that ending. And so I'm seeing you guys go through here. Can you take me through the mission if you're comfortable? There's a couple of ones that I read through the book that I just thought were really, really over the top, really, really cool. Can you take me through a little bit of the Glass Mountain mission
Yeah.
itself, which was pretty soon after the llama incident, in the span of time. But Glass Mountain, I think, was really fun for figuring out what a sniper does, again, for me, domestically. This is not something I've ever really had to think of. And as as a Marine sniper, we had done a few cursory kind of introductions with FBI snipers or anything like that, but
Mhm.
we just weren't operating on the same locations, obviously, so we didn't have a ton of work. This was really interesting for me to read and have a lot of the parallels. I would say the same experiences that I was going through overseas, you were doing, but domestically. So if you could, I'd love to hear the Glass Mountain story from beginning to end, if that's fine with you.
Sure. A lot like the other case, like with the Carney hostage rescue, the white llama. This is just a call out. I mean, a tangent I would actually love to talk about at some point is the stress of being on call 24/7 for basically 25 years, including my Air Force career, 32 years. The always, uh, what if I have a beer? What if I'm tired? Um, what if I can't make it? Carrying my phone into the bathroom with me, taking it on vacation with me. Like you can't miss a call out and let the boys down. Like, you don't want to miss an op and you really don't want to be like, where were you? We needed you. You can't say, well, it was 3 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. I was drunk. You have to always be on call. So I get a call, team leader sends out a text and he's basically like, we got a fugitive, we got a grid, everybody needs to rally basically at this grain silo in the middle of the night. So I keep all my gear in my truck all the time. I have a great big safe. I got my sniper rifles, assaulter rifles, breaching shotguns, armor, medical suite. I had truck just loaded to the gills. All I had to do was get my uniform on. At the time, it was like OD green cries, throw on my uniform.
Glad to see you guys got better uniforms at the time.
I love the cries so much, man. When, guys started getting cries, I was like, "Holy crap, those are cool." I found out they're like $300 just for the pants, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're not cheap.
yeah. No, yeah,
We didn't get those in the Marines, so I'm a little jealous. The Marines were like, "Mm."
yeah. If you got one set, you wore them till they disintegrated, and I did, but I throw my uniform on, I race out there. I get there first, again, only because I'm the closest office to this part of Oklahoma where there's these beautiful red and white, small mesas and plateaus. I can't see any of 'em at night. I grew up in Oklahoma, I didn't know they were there. I get out there and I'm just prepping my gear, trying to figure out, am I even in the right place? And our armor starts rolling in. We had like the old surplus MRAP that's rolling in, and guys are pulling up in Suburbans, and team leader gets out and grabs me. I think just because I'm already set. I'm jocked. I got all my gear. I'm ready. Like everyone else is scurrying, and I'm also one of the senior. I think I'm probably 10, 12 years on the team now, so I'm maybe second, third, fourth in command, something like that. And I was just like, "Hey, boss, what do you need?" And he starts telling me this guy detonated a bomb in Florida, I think a year ago. He's been off grid. Bureau never gives up finding people. And we get this data. For whatever reason, he's not in Florida and he's supposed to be here. And it was kind of it was a great mission in that I had all these things I learned over my career. I mean, SEER school,
Mhm,
using a signal mirror,
mhm.
learning to navigate uh reconnaissance versus surveillance versus
Mhm.
overwatch. Like this op had it all. Luckily, it happened in a point in like a few weeks prior, I'd had the opportunity to shoot live fire in a stadium from a high angle shoot. So I literally just practiced. Like I already had my dope fine tuned for high angle shooting. It's just like I couldn't have been more prepared, and it was for no thing I did. I just had all the training I needed for this
Just
op.
lined
So
up.
he literally gets his iPad and he's like, somewhere in here, this dude's supposed to be right there. And I was like, "Well, give me the actual grid." I get my GPS and I punch it in and it's just a line, right? It's just a boop. And a park ranger guy comes over and just like, "What are you guys doing?" We tell him vaguely, "We need to apprehend a fugitive." And he's here and he's like, "Oh yeah, climb up one of these mesas. You can't see anything. It's a moonless night, zero illume." He's like, "I'll take you to one of these mesas and y'all hike up there and you can see forever up there." So we jump in with the guy and we climb a mesa, and this is hours of the mission I'll fast forward through, but we hike along the ridge of this mesa, almost fall off of it once or twice,
Right.
and we're hiking with nods, no light because it's zero lume, and we're skylined. So if bad guy is down there and armed, like they told us he probably is armed with an AK-47, possibly a hunting rifle. You don't want to have a flashlight out and be on the top of a ridge line. So, you know,
Kinda gives away the element of surprise.
yeah, we end up hiking all the way to the edge of this first mesa until there's nothing to do but fall off the other side. At this point, the sun is rising, and we realize there's another mesa in front of us. And about the same time, one of the bureau surveillance planes is on station, and it's an old buddy of mine. Big Al is what we called him. And I key him up, and I can't get him on the radio at first, and then I pick him up. It's kind of crackled. Luckily, he's a street agent. It's a lot like the Marine Corps. Like our
Mhm,
surveillance pilots are special agents with a badge and a gun on their hip
mhm,
that run cases. So
mhm.
it's a big deal. There was a big movement for a while. Like, why are we putting all this money into training agents to be pilots when we could just hire pilots? And then, but no, like I need a guy in the air when I'm downrange.
Who knows what to look for, who knows what it's like to be on the flat ground, right?
Yes.
Like, who understands spore and sign and
Yes.
tracking and understands all of these nuances so that they can look at it and then feed that information to me. Yeah, I think that's a solid point, and I really like how when assaulters become snipers, it's what they eventually do, and I know that there's a whole bunch of, love lost, but or not a lot of love lost between assaulters and snipers, but the sniper then can give the assaulter or the next assaulter an idea of, outward versus inward opening doors. What's like, because that's the same thing that they're running through. Totally understand that.
Yeah. So it's Al, and I don't realize, well, now I'm just now realizing there's at least 2 mesas, and now as I'm scanning around, I'm realizing there's mesas everywhere. So I'm like, I have a grid coordinate standby, and he's like, I'm solo in this no, he wasn't solo in the plane, but I think he had a non-pilot with him, and he's like, "Okay, it's gonna take me a minute to punch in the grid and figure out where you are," and so I just said, "Hey, hold on." I get out my this signal mirror that I'd carried for years from SEER school. We had to call in the rescue helicopter, and so I just get out. I don't know if you make a fireball in your hand, and then you just kinda move your hand and it strobes, and so I'm pounding him with, and he's like, "What the hell is that, man?" It's
I like a
signal
little
mirror.
bit of the field craft. That's pretty good. Everyone's super reliant on technology, but sometimes the old field craft comes through.
It's super expedient because he immediately was like, "Yeah, I know exactly where you are. Please stop shining that," and he's again, I'm not supposed to say, the bureau asked me not to say his altitude, but he's a little ways up.
Yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah.
at, like, surveillance ISR altitude at this
Yeah.
point, but, so he does the recce for me. He flies around the far mesa, he sees a vehicle that looks just like the vehicle of the bomber, make, model, color, and, we're like, "Alright, that's it." So we have to go back a click down this mesa to where there's actually switchbacks. Go down that, get in my Suburban, drive, probably 1,500 meters to the second mesa, and the second mesa is not meant for the public, and so we actually have to free climb about 20 stories, and I am not
Wow.
well versed in wall climbing, and it's this loamy, dirty kinda like, there's chunks of rock, but, at one point going up that, I thought, "Man, I have a hernia too," like, I blew my belly button out squatting. So I have an umbilical hernia, it hurts like all hell, but I'm not telling anybody, I'm just like,
No, no, not in that
yeah,
environment. No way.
no, I'm not gonna bow out, like, this is such I need people to understand, like, when I say it was such a cool op, it's because we were doing something so worthy of our skill
Right.
set, not because I'm a big fan of, like, violence or anything, it was just
No,
like,
no, no. In
yeah,
that
I don't know if
environment,
you know that.
you're definitely not gonna tell anyone, "Sorry, guys, I can't. My tummy hurts."
Right. Yeah, at least it was from squatting, that's the only I always make sure people know that, like,
Yeah, yeah. I even
but
noticed
anyway.
how you wrote that in the book too.
Oh, yeah.
Just as a
Yeah.
point.
Well, and to kinda add to it, I'm wearing, like, I just used a kind of a traditional, it was a Camelback ruck. I'm not sponsored by everything. Just a kind of a basic ruck, and then I had at this point, we were carrying 24-inch heavy barrel 308s.
Mhm.
So I have my ruck on and my 308 on, and I have it strapped down, and I just have on, like, basic gloves and my basic uniform, and I'd popped off my helmet, but I'd added plates. And, I'm pretty heavy,
Yeah.
and I'm already a relatively big dude, and then we're climbing, and my sniper teammate he's below me. At some point, like, we pass each other trying to find good routes up, and at this point, I'm about halfway up, and I really am like, "This is it." Like, I die on this stupid freaking mesa. So I lose my grip, and my hands lose it, and my feet lose it, and then I can kinda just feel my weight shifting backwards, and I'm clawing at the
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
like,
that kinda
yeah.
panicky.
Oh. And I'm not like, again, I'm not well versed in it, and I'll be honest with you, I am terrified of rappelling. I hate it every time we did rappelling. I hate fast roping. I hate parachuting. I volunteered for free fall. I hated everything about it.
I'm with you on that. I only jump
Um,
out of the airplane because somebody else went in front of me and somebody else went
yeah,
behind me, and I'll be damned if I'm gonna be the guy who doesn't jump out of the airplane. I'm
yeah,
terrified of all of
yeah,
that.
yeah. I hate it. So I'm realizing I'm losing it, and my only thought actually is I'm gonna wipe Mackie off this. I'm gonna fall and I'm gonna kill him too. And so I'm yelling, Mackie, 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 I'm losing it. Mackie, I'm falling. And weird, it's like all came back to me. He grabs my boot. I don't know why I'm getting emotional, sorry. Uh, like he's literally like dug in, holding me up 10 stories up this mountain. And he's like, I got your money. I got your money. And I just dig back in. Like, it's this small moment in the story. I don't know why it did this to me right now, but it's this small moment of like really being there for each other. Like, he didn't jump out of the way. He figured out how to save me. Um, anyway, We quickly recover from that, and, I get my head back on my shoulders, I get a good grip, and, we climb the rest of the way up, and when we get to the top, I pull off my ruck and everything, and I get down, like, legit skull drag. I don't know where this mesa ends or where the bad guy begins. It's so, like, we legit skull drag right up to the edge and
What time of day
dragging.
is this?
Now it's early morning now. So we've been up all night on, recce and, still haven't laid eyes on, and so, I haven't slept all night, and, so I've been up since, probably 5 a.m. the day prior, and, I remember us looking at each other and going, "Ah, crap, it's tomorrow." Like, and who knows when this is gonna end.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And we drag across the engine. I remember we were both peeking over the edge, and we kinda looked at each other, and we're like, "Dude, that's the truck, that's make, model. Can't see the tag at this point." And, I get my binos out, and I look, and there's a dude sleeping in a tent, like a little bitty green tent, and you can kinda see, like, an arm hanging out, and, so we call it in. We're like, "We don't have PID, but, I mean, either way, this dude needs to we need to have a conversation, positive ID. We need to, like, I can't tell you exactly who he is, but why is he driving that truck? Why is he here? Why does he have."
Everything matches this description so far. I can't see his face, but we've got a truck at this location that matches this, this.
He may or may not have, yeah, he may or may not have a bomber's phone on him.
Yeah.
So, so we start calling and we start working contingencies. We're like, all right, well, what if he sees us and shoots at us? Where would we bring the assaulters in from? There's a ravine there. There's a ravine here. We're on a mesa. And we start working out a plan. And I drag my rifle out. I got my rifle all set up. I got a round chambered safety on, and I kind of put it off to the side. And we're just looking at terrain. We start doing a range card. That's another thing. Like, whoever really does a range card in police sniper craft is really like that guy in the balcony has a hostage, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yes.
So we're actually like got our write and rain notebooks out. We're doing a range card. We're like, there, that's 500. We're lasing stuff, and we divide into sectors. We're like, this is alpha sector. And we're mostly just trying to stay awake.
Well, actually, if I totally understand,
Yeah.
like I have done so many things in my time because it's some people would see it as busy work, but I think that this the way that our brain works is I am trying to stay engaged. And the way that I try to stay engaged is by constantly updating, constantly surveilling, constantly being aware of the surroundings. I also, as a sniper, was like nerding out when you were talking about the hypotenuse, and I was like,
Yeah.
Pythagorean theorem, here we come. And
Yes.
it was fascinating to watch, again, the way that you described that, and the way that you go through that. These are things that movies don't characterize, right? These are things that people can't, they just think that it's this, machine of a person that gets behind the bolt gun and is like, Roger, execute, right? And like does this thing. There are so many things that go inside of that to include the field craft. So as you're describing every one of these things, while I did not read, or while I did not live your experience, you are describing the experiences so colorfully that I am seeing myself go through. I'm remembering the feeling of my toes going numb and having at different places and having to like wiggle my toes to A, make sure they're still there, and B, try to get some blood back to them.
Yeah.
And then when you do the hypotenuse and Pythagorean theorem and you're going through this thing, so now you have no PID, but you have confirmed that he is in this location. What's happening next?
So I'm actually getting impatient. I'm really tired.
Right after we talk about the whole thing
Yeah.
about snipers being patient, you're like, "Oh, I'm
Yeah.
getting impatient."
I wish I could just be on glass like Sierra One standing by, but I'm like, I'm texting my teammates. I'm like, what the hell? Come on. How hard can it be? Drive up here and arrest
Yeah,
him.
you fucking assaulters.
Yes. We have an armored vehicle. Drive up and get him. I need some breakfast. So we're telling him like and we have a BlackBerry phone at the time, so we have our little crappy BlackBerry. We're trying to shoot. That's all the ISR we're really getting. We're trying to shoot pictures of it and send it back and give him a feel for. So we're like, here's how you should approach. They finally said, all right, we're gonna execute the assault. I'm all excited. I'm like, oh, let's go. Easy day. Show up, call him out, put him in jail. We just solved an old bombing. And the armor gets there, and the armor's like 75 yards from him, and they stop. And I'm on the horn. I'm like, that's it. Pull up. He's straight ahead. He's in the tent straight ahead. He's still in the tent. And they're like, we can't. There's a 45-degree grade here, and we're in a a mine resistant vehicle, super top heavy. We can't go. It will fall over like a turtle and be stuck. And I can't see it because as I'm up high looking down at that slope, the slope feels normal in my brain. I didn't even know that was a real illusion. And then later I actually went down and I stood there and I looked up at where I'm like 200, I can't remember. I'm 300 feet. I don't remember how high up on this mesa on the edge. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is really, really steep. So um, they send out a flanking team. We get a canine there from the troopers. The guy zips up his window, and that's when I really got the heebie-jeebies. He's like, tents have like a bug flap
Yeah.
that's just a mesh, and then a rain flap. Well, he zips up both of the bug flaps only, and it's hot. And there's
So
no
now you can confirm. So like not only have you know that a person is there, you don't have PID or positive ID yet that
yeah,
it's the person, but now they've noticed that somebody else is there. You can identify that, right? Because
yeah.
now their pattern of life has changed. They're zipping things up, right?
And the PA on the armor is actually on our MRAP is actually calling him, but so they're like, AJ Pasciuti, this is the FBI. We have a warrant for your arrest.
I really hope
You
to never hear those words, by the way. I cannot emphasize enough how little I want to hear those words.
Yeah. And I'm on the radio calling back and I'm like, dude, I'm way up on this mesa and I hear you guys loud and clear. He knows you're there and he is seeking to conceal himself.
Mm.
So they were telling him, come out. He doesn't. We set up a flanking team. They release a dog and he unzips the tent. I don't know what he's thinking. He unzips the tent and he comes out the north side. I'm south of him. And then I just see kind of the back of his head above the tent line. So he's a little taller than the tent. So I just see a tent and a dude's head. And I'm like, well, maybe now is when he's going to give up. Like he realizes he's completely surrounded. He's going to give up. And he doesn't move. He doesn't move. The canine handler releases his dog. And this dog, typical fur missile rockets with grace all the way over to this guy. And I don't know for sure. I tried to talk to the trooper who had the dog. He yells something and the dog screeches to a halt 180s and fires right back and sits right next to him. So I think it was a test run because actually the first canine handler said, no, thanks. I'm not going to have that guy's just going to shoot my dog.
Yeah.
That's not a worthy use of this dog. And then the next canine handler's like, I can do it, but my rules. And I'll do it however I want. And so I wonder to this day if he was like, let's get the dog quick and see how bad man reacts.
Almost like a show of force. Like, hey, this thing we can like almost like an escalation of force. Like, hey,
Yeah.
we've got fur missile, right? You
Right.
can like
Yeah.
rip your freaking arm off,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so almost pulled him back. Okay. Okay.
So yeah, it's a good point. Maybe it's like, hey, you just saw what happened and it didn't bite you. So let's go. Let's not get the word. And so he fires the dog off a second time. And before the dog is to him, he is up AK-47, like at a low ready, and he's bringing it to bear on my teammates and everything kind of that tacky psyche.
Yeah.
It's not crazy slow-mo, but it's more like my brain is in a higher frame rate. It didn't feel slow. It just felt like my vision was ultra sharp. And I'm 210 yards from him up on a mesa, but I'm not making this up. I am a gun geek. I remember thinking that's an EOTech.
Yeah.
I've never seen an EOTech mounted on an AK-47 before.
Nor have
But
I. Yeah.
it doesn't have that SKS front bayonet bull crap on it. It looks like a legit AK. He would have had to, like, weld a Picatinny rail onto the dust cover. This is in less than 1 second. My brain's just like
Yeah.
and I'm safety I already have the safety off. I don't people may disagree with that, but when the dog comes a second time, I just had if this guy shoots it out, I don't have time to reach up over, flip a Remington 700 style safety off, and then get back on the trigger.
I mean, everything's
So
starting to escalate, right? So having your
yeah,
safety off in this moment is perfectly,
yeah. And
perfectly
I'm
normal.
finger off trigger.
Okay.
And so, that dog and as soon as the dog comes up, boom, he comes up with a rifle, and all I can think is, "Oh, he's gonna kill my teammates." And it wasn't even a logical, "I should shoot him now." It was just boom, fired the round, he goes down, the gun recoils, I cycle the bolt right away. I see he's fallen to the east, and I can see his head, he's face down, and I have the crosshairs right on the back of his skull, and I think, "Well, I can just turn this guy off like a switch. You're not killing any of us today, I'll end you." I'm not even mad, I'm just like and he had fired. He actually some almost cinematically, you could see the AK firing and it's rippling, and you can see like this red dirt chasing up to my teammates. It's just, and then all of a sudden he goes down. And I thought, okay, hell, did I miss him? Did he hear a gunshot? And now I see his head, and he actually lifts his, I don't think anybody saw it but me because he fell between the tent and a briar patch. He lifts his head up and he kind of looks right and left and he puts his head back down. And I'm like, that dude is playing possum. Probably laying on his rifle.
Yeah.
He just peeked right and left, and now he laid his head down. And so I'm with my left hand, I'm keying up my radio and I'm telling everybody, hold, 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 Sierra's hot. So I'm telling them, sniper's still working right now. Don't get in my way.
Sure.
And so
Don't
I'm,
mess up my angles. Don't get,
yep.
yeah, totally.
So if this guy jumps up, I'm just going to put one right in the back of his skull and it's going to be the end of it. And he doesn't move and he doesn't move. And I'm like, hmm. So someone makes the decision, like, let's huck a flashbang at him. And, the flashbangs we use are pretty legit. If you it bounces up by his head, and I'm zoomed into about 10 power, and I remind people I'm 210 yards from him, but with the scope on 10 power, I have the visual acuity of 21 yards. So just look across the house at something at 21 yards. That's the visual acuity I had. So I'm looking at his eyes and his face. What I can't see is his torso. At the time, I can't see. He's shot. I hit him right through center torso in a descending shot, and so it ruptured every organ, and it overpressured, and the overpressure of the round expanding the cavitation damaged his spine, which is why he fell down so fast. It's also probably why his hand stopped working, but his neck still worked, so he could look. He was probably paralyzed, but in the abundance of caution, we wait and wait. He doesn't respond to the bang. Troopers shoot a beanbag round at him, and it's the first time I think, "Oh, this dude's dead. I killed this guy." And, finally, the team comes up, the medics, Big Toe, Dangler, 2 of our medics run up, and they immediately start working on him. They have the bag valve mask out, they're doing breathing, they're putting quick clot in him, they're doing chest compression. So I got my rifle put away, and I'm looking through the binos now, just this weird macabre specter of looking, same thing, like I'm zoomed into about 10 power, so it just feels like I'm hovering over, watching my teammates with just blood up to their elbows, doing chest compressions, bagging, and we had an ambulance on standby, which is pretty standard procedure, and they can't get anywhere near him, and finally, I see the guys, they pick him up, they run him to the ambulance and get him on the ambulance, and he's been dead for a while, but, they did their due diligence, um, to get him there. Yeah, I'm not sure how to end that story.
No, you're fine. Actually, if I may, there's a lot of connection, I think, between you and I in this space. Would I be able to read a chapter or a segment from your book that I think you did a fantastic job of kind of encapsulating the cacophony of emotions that come through, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, yeah.
This resonated with me because it's very hard for me to describe as well. And I know that Dave Grossman does talk about this a number of times as well. Um, the bittersweet concoction of gloom and success after killing a man is difficult to deal with. You have spent countless hours sweating or freezing, enduring pain and boredom so that you can be successful if you are ever called upon. The purpose of being a skilled sniper is to save lives by neutralizing someone who would otherwise be a murderer. Yet when it happens, you are still overcome with the upsetting knowledge that you have separated the spirit from the body and left behind a mangled sack of meat. I've talked to other snipers, and the feeling of, oh man, I'm in trouble, was common in all of us, even when we were certain it was a righteous shooting. Killing someone is appalling, bitter, and upsetting, yet deliciously satisfying. We won the fight, and I wasn't ashamed of it. This is so profound to me because it is so hard. I have never enjoyed pulling the trigger on and taking a human life. What I have enjoyed is doing my job so much and so well that I have prevented the harm or death of my comrades, or bringing someone to, putting the period at the end of a very dangerous sentence. That's
Mm.
what I think is so poignant about the way that you've written. You can see this. You can see it and you can feel it in your writing, in every word that drips onto the page here. It is this fine line that we have to walk as snipers that says, "Damn it, I'm proud of what I did." man, is it hard to carry that? Is it hard to carry that load? Because, normies, or as my buddy likes to call it, muggles, right? Is like they it's very hard for people to understand that, from one person to another who's done a very similar thing and had to deal with the same things. I feel you, I see you, I understand you, and I thank you for having to do that. It is not something that most people understand, and frankly, the thing that's come to my own, understanding is it's not their job to understand.
Yeah.
It's not it's just, freedom has a flavor the protected will never know, and
Mhm.
there are certain people like yourself who have to go, I'm a military guy. You are a doing this on American soil to protect American lives. I cannot thank you enough from the bottom of my heart for having to do this. And
That means a lot to me. I really, really, really appreciate you saying that.
and then and then the thing that you have to do that I've never had to do is what you describe in the very next, set of paragraphs. You walk back into American life. You are not allowed to talk about the case because it is still an open investigation.
Mhm.
You are not allowed to seek treatment. You're not allowed to decompress. You can't. This was the weirdest phenomenon to me. Was you have to leave your rifle on
Yeah.
top of or your brass casings on top of this mesa? Can you
Yeah.
go into that segment of the evidence and how this kind of, because again, this is not something I've ever had to deal with, was now taking this, like, how do you not think that this is a bad thing? I'm sorry I talked for a whole bunch on that
No,
one,
it's
but
good. Yeah.
this was something that I've never had to experience.
It I don't remember thinking a lot about the brass because, I was in that moment. Like I was still, in the fight. And so I didn't really think about until we had to hike all the way back down that mountain and then drive around and then met the teammates and did a bunch of hugs and then one of the supervisors came up and he's like, "Hey, did you shoot?" And I said, "Yeah." He's like, "From where?" And I was like, "Up there." He's like, "Oh, I need your rifle." And I was like, "Okay, roger that. I'm not getting it back for a while, am I?" And he's like, "No." And he's like, "You got your brass?" I was like, "Negative." He's like "Ah, well." He's like, "We'll have."
Bad
Yeah.
sniper.
Well, I remember being confused because I thought, "Well, what." I remember thinking, "Well, I know that they want it, but I'm also glad that I left the crime scene pristine." So I've showed up on crime scenes where someone's done their best to, like, treat a victim from a horrible crime and, the evidence and I get it, you know?
Yeah,
But
that's the
me
thing, is so different. It's a crime scene. I've just
Yeah,
never had to put it in that lens.
yeah. So I was glad, like, someone found my brass exactly where it ejected out of the bolt and my fingerprints on it, or well, probably they might be from loading it, but right, like, all the forensics are good, and then he takes the rounds that are left in my magazine because he said, "We wanna send that back and show 1 piece of brass, 1 round's missing from the magazine." I had chambered 1 and then taken it back out of the chamber and seated it. They're gonna check this bullet, gold medal match, it shatters and kind of explodes in soft tissue, and so they're gonna compare the lead and the gilding metal to the ones actually out of my gun, the little shards that have rifling in it, they're gonna compare to the rifle. So they actually go through my rifle and they show all the forensic evidence they can to show this bullet came out of this gun on this day, and so they have it for months, and all total, it's probably a $10,000 rifle, and if I'd been in shootings before, they just like, everyone carries Glocks, everyone has M4s, they're just like sometimes if they're really on top of it, they're just like, here's a Glock 17, I need yours, here's one," and you just slip it right in the holster, good to go. So there's so much to being made whole again. And I've seen it where guys are in a shooting and they just have that like, "Oh no, I killed someone" look in their face. Good shoot. They saved a life. And someone's like, "Bro, I need your gun." And they immediately Big Al did this to his partner when I was there when they had a gunfight with a bank robber. Being a street agent in Ardmore, Oklahoma, his partner had shot this bank robber in the neck while he was drawing down on him. And, before he could take the slack out, he hit him in the neck. He survived. But Big Al went up and took his own personal pistol out of his holster and slipped it in his pistol and said, "Hey, bro, I just need your gun." Crime scene, that stuff, whatever. Good job though, man. That's a momentous. for someone to look at you and go, "Hey, good job, though." I didn't get any of that, and I'm not upset about it, but looking back on it, it would have changed, like, the repeat dream cycle, ultra high, like, hyper aware way I felt for months afterwards is because they were like, "Well, we gotta process the crime scene, we gotta make sure everything matches up, we gotta call the DA, make sure the DA promises not to press charges." "Press charges? Press charges for what? I shot a bomber. I shot a terrorist. What do you mean not press charges?" "It's just a formality." Well, the DA took almost a year to actually write a document that said, "I will not press charges." Part of that was the big bad FBI attorneys from Virginia, from DC are calling this little county DA and
Mhm.
say, "Hey, we need a document that says you won't prosecute." And he's like, "Well, I don't why wait, should I? I wanna see all your
I
documentation."
didn't think I needed to
Yeah,
before, but now I have questions.
and the bureau saying, "Well, we're not gonna give you our investigation if you intend to try to charge our agent." And then, I mean, the way it should work is what it should, even if he did press charges, the bureau, knowing that it's a good shoot, would remove it to federal court and dismiss it. And that's not manipulative. It's just good legal due process. Like, charge me in state court or charge me in federal court. We can make a good argument that if I need to be charged, I need to be charged in federal court. But everyone is like, it's good shoot, it's good shoot, it's a good shoot. But the isolation, not having my rifle, there is no replacement rifle. When I was a sniper team leader, when they sent us a spare, I carried an extra sniper off book. Like, I just picked a really good shooter from the assaulter team, and I was like, "You're number 5 on our sniper team now, here's a 5th rifle."
Mhm.
I can't let that sit in the vault, but we didn't have any spares, so like, when a sniper mission came up, they were like, "Hey, money, we got this op. We need Overwatch in advance." And I'm like, "Bro, I mean, I can bring my SPR." Um, like, I don't have a bolt gun.
So that's was so when I was reading this thing, and so okay, so you're an OSI Air Force agent, so your brain is super analytical from the get go. An Air Force Academy graduate, and then you become an FBI agent, leaning into the analytics, leaning into the thought process, the chain reactions, trying to be able to sniff out leads and all this, and then you become a sniper, which is even more coming into this. I mean, though, again, you described the hypotenuse at 1,500 feet above sea level and a 200-yard shot at a 20-degree down angle. This is you are just your mind is constantly running hot and constantly spinning. You have a kill, you take a shot. This guy's aiming down, an AK-47 with an EOTech at your other special agents who are charging up this hill. You put this guy down, immediate incapacitation to a certain extent, and then he dies, and now there's no way, so you're already grappling with all of this stuff, having to take a human life, which is not a natural phenomenon, as Dave Grossman talks about, not a
Right.
natural phenomenon for us, and then they effectively neuter you, right? And they take the one thing that has made this all possible, and then they isolate you. You're not allowed to talk about this. This is not something I had to deal with. So we had some similar very, very loosely similar. In 2006 in Iraq, you do a very good job as a sniper here describing the weapon systems and the bullets or the projectiles themselves. We call them in the military hollow point bow tail, but you don't call them that for a specific reason.
Mhm.
And in 2006, there was a judge advocate somewhere in Iraq that found out that snipers were using hollow point boat tails.
Mhm.
And they saw the word hollow point and they saw hollow point as we were creating carnage or whatever it was. It was because of the manufacturing process that the way that they were created to be a hollow point, if you will. And it was for ballistics and external ballistics and how they traveled through the air.
Mhm.
It had nothing to do with terminal ballistics, with what had entered the body cavity.
Right.
But because of that, the round split. There was an order that came down at one point in 2006 saying all snipers need to turn in their Alpha Alpha 11 or the military code for 175 grain hollow point bow tail, match ammunition.
Mhm.
And all of us looked at each other and went, No, we're not doing," because that brings us down from, 1,000 meters capability down to 600. They wanted us to use de-linked machine gun ammunition to
Wow.
be able to shoot out of, our sniper rifles because they weren't hollow point. And so it was this weird we felt attacked in that being like, "I'm out here I didn't ask to get sent here, dude."
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm out here
Yeah.
doing my job. But we had at some points to defend certain engagements. Of my old partner when I was in Iraq, there was an engagement that he and another sniper were literally put on a helicopter and flown from our area to Baghdad to go
Wow.
testify in a case. So pulling us out of a hide site to go testify in a previous shoot in a war zone, we felt, I won't speak for you, right? But what I felt at the time was a sense of like a little bit of like betrayal. Was,
Mm,
like, what, I didn't do anything wrong here. And the
mhm.
effects that it felt for us later on was it made me delay another split second in a war zone of saying, what's going to happen if I pull this trigger? Now, I already know that you guys have, due process. Everything that you've explained in your book has been very, very big on trying to limit the amount of casualties to be able to give every avenue for a bad guy or a suspect from bringing violence into the scenario, and I commend you guys for that. But my God, to have all of these things taken from you and then have this super analytical brain, I can only imagine what your mind must have been going through, the spinning that you were kind of going through during this process when
Yeah,
you did a good thing, but every other metric of the system negatively rewarded you, if that makes sense.
yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Pocket Hose, the world's #1 expandable hose. Living in a townhouse, I'm always thinking about two things: how to maximize space and how to keep things simple. That's exactly why the Pocket Hose makes so much sense for me. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow, which makes it easy to move around without fighting the hose the whole time. And when I'm done, this rust-proof, anti-burst hose shrinks right back down to pocket size, so I'm not stuck trying to wrestle a big, bulky hose into tight storage spaces. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable pocket hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. The brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is a total game changer. I love that it's lightweight, durable, and actually practical for the way I live. In a townhouse, I don't have a ton of extra room, so having something that expands when I need it and shrinks back down when I'm done is a huge win. I can water plants, rinse off the patio, and handle quick jobs around the house without dragging around some heavy old hose or figuring out where to store it afterward. And honestly, that matters more than I expected. I don't want one more awkward piece of gear leaning in the garage or taking up room on the side yard. I want something easy to grab, easy to use, and easy to put away. And that's exactly what this is. It gives me the reach I want without all the bulk, clutter, or hassle. For a limited time, Combat Story listeners can get a free pocket pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text CS to 64,000. That's CS to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. CS to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details. And now, back to our show.
You're right. I don't know that I've ever told anyone necessarily, but I asked one of the supervisors if I could get the autopsy photos and, the autopsy report, and then as much of the, like, ballistics data and crime scene stuff as I could, and after my wife went to bed, I would stay up late and pore over it ad nauseum, like, to the point where I was memorizing it and thinking to myself, "What am I doing? Like, why did I was there, I don't need to read these reports," and I would read them again and again and think, "Well, okay, well, if he turned when I shot him, it woulda hit here, and it woulda." I'm not saying it was healthy, but I think of, like, my brain needed to do something.
Yep.
I couldn't talk to anyone else about it, so I was just talking to me about it. So I would stay up till 4 in the morning reading the reports and reliving it, and then every night when I went to bed, I would relive it, and it wasn't terrifying. I relived it very much like I was watching a movie and eating popcorn, and I just wake up and I'm like, "Huh, I just spent the last 6 hours in bed rehearsing Glass Mountain." Not even upset by it, I just, like, my brain was like, I need to tell someone this story, so let's just dream about it all night and think about it in the evenings, and it was a huge relief to finally get to talk to teammates about it. It was a little bit too late. I'm not upset about it because I'm first and foremost an investigator, and it was a crime scene, and we are ultimately cops, and I wanted there to be good detective work. So however long they need to have my rifle to make sure that the evidence is done right, I understand. But there should have definitely been protocols in place for someone to just come up and say, without saying, well, we haven't analyzed the data yet. And there's a lot of, just come and be like, hey, good job, bro, man. Good job. Everyone's, I kind of would go to headquarters, the field office in Oklahoma City, and walk the halls, and people would ask me dumb shit questions. They were like, "Hey, did you guys get in trouble for that?" And I'm like, "What? No, you mean get in trouble?" Like,
Why
"I
would
heard
you
you
get in trouble for that?
I heard you guys shot him." My own I'm not gonna say who, because he'll a guy I know well that I worked with was like, "I heard you guys shot him 50 times, and now you're all under investigation." Like, "No, we didn't shoot him 50 times. What are you talking about?" "Well, I saw that someone got me they showed me the crime scene pictures, and I'm." Well, it turns out one of the assaulters hit him, and it hit his ACOG, which is not uncommon.
Mhm, mhm.
So he's
Which
bringing a
was the
rifle to
hands, right?
bear.
Yep,
Yeah.
the hands, yep.
So your hands and the muzzle are all right there. So boom, it hits his ACOG, and it spalls. And so people had been sneaking looks at the autopsy photos, which they're not secret. They're not sneaking. Like, people are just curious. And it looks like there's all these holes in him. But this jackwad was like, "Yeah, I heard you guys are under investigation." And so I could hear people whispering in the hall, and I can hear some people be like, "Hey, that's the guy. That's the guy."
Mhm.
Like, mountaintop kill shot, man. That's crazy. And I walk be like, "Hey, what's up, Jeremy? How's it going, man?" I'm like, "What are you guys doing? Nothing?"
It's a
You know?
weird we've experienced that as well. It's a weird I'm glad you and I are talking because this is
Yeah.
actually helpful for me because
Good.
there's a, our world is a very closed world, of being behind an optic, and you gain a relationship at some level with whatever target. If you have time, you gain a relationship with them, you understand them, you can see things a little bit slower and a little bit clearer. Um, and then I've also noticed is like this distance that people put between you and them,
Mhm.
especially as a sniper, because it's a weird thing, I think, when there's a proximity to it, and the calculatedness of it, I've felt, and you've described it very well in your book, but this is distance. It's hard to put a number on it or put a word to it, but, like, people would kinda look at you and be like, "Ugh," like, "Are they just cold-blooded killers? Are they just mathematicians?"
Yeah.
And we're like, "Man, I'm just like you, dude. I just have a different specialty that does this thing." But
Yeah.
it's a hard bridge for people to cross, man.
I
I'm really
really
glad that you and I are chatting, though. I feel a
Yeah.
little bit better about some of my own stuff as well, knowing that
Good.
at some level that other people have experienced the same thing that I have.
Yeah. Well, and to your point, the reason that I actually got to know Colonel Grossman on a personal level was because, I'd read On Combat and On Killing, and I'd actually been to a seminar before the gunfight at Glass Mountain, and, it was really helpful for me. I never read anything like it, so it was really helpful just to see that, like, French officers were using their swords to swat World War II soldiers on the butt because they were refusing to fire.
Right.
Like, we have for all time had to really convince people, "You should go kill those other people."
Mhm.
And then even after you do, the majority of people are like, "I can't believe I just did that." So the reason I reread the book, and, I got to a part, I think it's on Combat, I don't remember, where he talks about, I think he was talking about how there's sort of this spectrum of proximity that any sort of warfighter combatant experiences, and it's from, I'll use my own words, the very close, like, knife fight in a phone booth,
Mhm.
all the way up to a B-52 at 40,000 feet dropping Mark 82s, like, and then so you kinda had somewhere in the middle, like, toward the B-52 side, like the artillery officer, and then, then you've got your more towards the knife fight is the infantryman,
Mhm.
and then sort of in the middle is the sniper. And it just stuck in my craw. I like him and I like his work, and I hate, I'm sure people write him all the time and like, "Well, actually, the way he doesn't need to know that bull crap."
Mhm.
I just wrote him a nice short email and said, "Your book meant a lot to me. I think it legitimately helped my mental health
Mhm.
after my first lethal engagement. And also, I'd like for you to consider that the sniper looking through a scope at 10 or 18 or 25 power can see the eye color of them. If you've been on Recce or Overwatch for 5, 10, 20 hours, now you know their quirks,
Yeah.
and so you develop, like you said, it's like a friendship, but, like, I kinda know this guy a little bit. I've been staring at his face for all this time, and then really quick, I have to decide, "You have to die right now. I'm gonna have to kill you right this second."
Yeah.
And then it's just over. So I just wrote him and said, "I think your book is fantastic. I would argue that the sniper is closer to the knife fight than the infantryman is." And he wrote me back immediately and was like, "Man, thank you for that. That's a really good point. Tell me more." And so I told him a couple things about like, I told him about I write in the book, I have this weird I almost didn't write the book because I didn't think anybody would understand. I fired the shot at the bomber at Glass Mountain, and I racked the bolt. He goes down. I put the crosshairs on the back of his skull, and I heard a thought in my head say, "You better rack the bolt." And then I told myself like a crazy person, silently, I already did. It always kinda bothered me. Why did I have this weird split personality? So I told him about it. I like, "What?" Like, "What? I'm pretty put together. I've shot this rifle till I've almost burned the barrel out of it, and I first time I'm in a lethal and first time in a gunfight where someone actually dies, I'm reminding myself to and he's like, "Totally normal, man. I hear about it over and over and over again. It's called perseveration." He said, he said, "There's more often than not, untrained snipers will rack a live round out
Yes.
to make sure it's loaded again. So they'll fire, reload, eject the brass, then go, 'Wait, did I load it?' Eject a live round because their brain is spinning." So he's like,
Absolutely agree. I can't tell you how many times I have been through an engagement, whatever it is, and then looking at brass casings, whatever the thing is, and you're like, what is that doing there? Right. And there's like a live bullet, right? And you're like, just moving, right? You're like moving through it. I completely agree with the proximity portion. I think um, I don't want to put any like tinfoil hats on, but I think what I sometimes fear for the future is the devaluation of human life because of the for the separation or the creation of distance, of
Right.
proximity.
Yeah.
I have felt the same thing. I've seen the same thing. You can see people's facial expressions. You can see the things. You can see the light. So okay, but I can't believe I'm going to admit this, but like for a long time, I uh, I didn't eat, meat for probably 2.5 years, and it was a weird thing for me. Now remember, I'm from Northern California. I didn't grow up hunting, and so, I have actually never been hunting. I've never hunted a mammal that doesn't walk on 2 feet, and it was a weird relationship for me because after I got back from Iraq and Afghanistan, um I'd seen the light leave from people's eyes, and I know what that was. And when I had seen animals dying, I recognized the same almost pleading. When an animal knows that it's going to die, it's looking around, it's kind of, the way the same I saw the same thing in humans' eyes. And so that really put a disassociation for me for a
Yeah.
while. Luckily, In-N-Out Burger broke that up. And I am a carnivore again. But there was this weird thing, I just couldn't put this relationship aside, was I recognized that same look. And it was something that people would be like, "Well, that's really weird." I'm like, "I don't." It was just me. It was just
I
this
get
thing
that.
that I saw.
Yeah.
Um, at the end of the day, what I saw between animals and humans was the same fear. And that's not something that a lot of times, as, Dave Grossman talks about in some of his books early on, was we had to change the targets that we use, to be able to associate to what we call an echo silhouette, right? A
Right.
man-sized target, right? So that we can train, we can override the conditioned response to not want to kill another human being
Yeah.
by overriding that with massive amounts of training and conditioning to pull the trigger on that. And now a lot of our young infantry Marines or infantry soldiers across the spectrum have scoped optics, and now they have the potential for proximity,
Yeah.
and the dealing with that. And that was really big when we were training young infantry Marines later on, was associating like the cost, I the cost of what it takes to take another human life, and then
Yeah.
to continue to live on with that.
Yeah. That's really helpful to hear you say that, man.
I appreciate that. Well, thank you so much again, for really much opening up with everything, about that. I think that, you've been able to kind of open my eyes to a lot of what happens back here, and to, restoring justice, bringing justice, and making sure that everything happens to kind of, balance the scales as best as possible. I think one of the things that I'm really interested in finding out about it really piqued my interest was Operation Delta Blues.
Mm.
If you're able to go into some of the details, I understand that involved a series of narcotics, traffickers, a series of law enforcement, unfortunately, law enforcement personnel that were implicated in that. Can you go into the details of Operation Del Blues? This to me was one of the highlights of the book was how everybody kind of came together. I'm really interested to hear if you could bring us from soup to nuts on this whole thing, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, I would. It was one of the largest coordinated operations I did in my whole career. It was probably among the top 3 biggest logistically, and, we were just our team was just one small piece of it. I had to look up exactly how many teams and how many operators were there, but off the top of my head, I wanna say 3 to 400 FBI SWAT operators in one place at one time. Um, a s a whole fleet of aircraft. We had ISR fixed wing, rotary wing, medevac, rotary wing. The core of the mission, I got to talk to the case agent, when I was writing the book. Case agent is a FBI term meaning someone who's really in charge of the detective work. And so he was one of the, I think, 3 case agents that really were the pointy end of the spear doing detective work. And it started with just this, not only is there a lot of drugs and violence and gang activity in this part of the US, but they're finding out the police officers are corrupt. The DA may be either corrupt or incompetent. Some of the judges may or may not be on the take. This is more than just, "Let's make some arrests." It is a microcosm where the criminal element has actually got enough footing that they're in charge and they're gaining momentum, and it had to be shut down.
Wow.
So they come up with this plan to, we are going to surreptitiously identify everyone in part of this criminal network. All the drug dealers, all the guys in charge, their lieutenants, who are the police officers getting paid off, where the drug's coming from, and then in one fell swoop, try to crush the entire organization as much as you can in 1 or 2 days. So, to say the least, we're stoked. They tell us, "Load up and come out here. You're gonna be out here for a week or 2 maybe, we don't know." And it was hands down, it may not have been the biggest op I've ever been on, but hands down was the best logistically organized. I was so impressed with. They were like, "All right, we're gonna have medic breakouts today. We're gonna have pilot breakouts today. We're gonna have team leader breakouts today." Guys would come up to the medics and they're like, "Hey, can I see your kit? You guys need more quick clot? How many tourniquets do you have?" They go over to the breachers, like, "Hey, you guys have your torches? You don't have your torches with you? Okay, we'll get you guys a torch. You need a bang pole. You guys have enough the flashbangs? You need smoke? We can get smoke." I mean, these 2 big arenas set aside with these pins, and each pen had a team of maybe 25 operators.
And
They
this was
already
a
had,
rodeo arena, you said?
yeah, like a 50,000, the one we're in is in Tunica. It's a 50,000-foot rodeo arena, and those big tubular pins that you would, like, put an animal in. They've just got them open-ended, and they have these big posters with every team has a 2-letter identifier, so OC was for Oklahoma City. And so there you can kinda walk along and go, "There's Dallas, there's Little Rock, there's New York, there's LA, there's," like, you just, like, and sometimes, and it's kinda fun too because you were like, "Oh, dude, we went to school together," and guys are hugging, and
Okay.
this small ring, they're like, "I didn't know you were on the Kansas team. I didn't know you were on the LA team." Like, but we prep for days, and they keep it all clandestine, which is amazing. Well, they did a good job of splitting the teams up. They knew the teams would get mad if we didn't get to be with our own teams. But they split the teams off and put us in all these different hotels, and some of them, 2-hour drive out of town. And you told us very, like, we're pretty much all athletic white male, mostly veterans. We have a look, we carry ourselves a certain way. 20 kinda jacked 210-pound dudes with short hair walk into a restaurant, people are like, but we actually had fun with that. We decide early on, like, if anybody asks, we're smoke jumpers.
There you go. Good. At least
Like,
it's believable.
right? Something like, right, you were a hockey team. Like,
Mhm.
we'd come up with some sort of, like, fun story because people won't leave you. They go, "What are you guys?" And if we were like, "Oh, nothing, we're just friends," they're like, "Oh, crap.
That never
Look at
satisfies them. Yeah.
look at you guys." Like, and we're all laughing and grabbing, and, like,
Mhm.
you can tell we're tight like most people aren't. And so, But they did a good job of keeping us separated. We tried to stay low profile, and then we would meet sort of clandestinely, and we do we'd meet with the informants, have the informants go through and tell us the layout of the house. Then we'd go into the arena with duct tape. You've probably done this. You'd get the measurements, try to get something from like the county clerk from the purchase of a building. You can get the rough measurements, and then you can get your ISR and tell like if this vent is probably from the kitchen, this vent is probably from the bathroom, and you can start to try to figure out what does this house look like on the inside. And then we take duct tape and we tape off the actual measurements of the house, and then we'd start running ops.
Old tape house.
Run clear tape house, right? That house with invisible walls, and then mix it up, change the walls, all that. And so we got a lot of reps, a lot of rehearsal. The logistics team was the star of the show. I mean, they had all the aircraft lined up, all the mechanics, everything we could have wanted, they had ready for us when it was time for game day. And we finally go, and I didn't think about it until it was D-Day. It was actually time to go do this. They were like, "Hey, we're going to launch you guys at like 0400. It's going to be a phase line green by 0500. We're going to execute at 06." That makes a lot of sense. So okay, that's a fine. So a 03 wake up, that's fine. Well, but also we don't want you to leave your hotel until the last minute because we don't want to spook anybody. And then when you get here, you come to this huge parking lot where there's hundreds of vehicles, and they've got guys out there with like legit aircraft marshalers wands, and they're lining up vehicles. So it's like a trooper in the lead, and then 3 Suburbans and an armored vehicle, and then an evidence car, like in a sedan. And then the same thing, a trooper, 3 Suburbans, another trooper over here. And so they're like, "All right, you're team blue 5, you guys are silver 17." And they're like, "You guys need to be behind this." So there's hundreds of cars driving around this parking lot late at this point. So they start doing that at like 2 in the morning. So they tell us, you probably should actually be wheels up towards the rally point at midnight. And so
We like to call that gunny timing, So like,
Yeah.
15 minutes prior to 15 minutes prior. And
Oh, yeah,
every,
yeah.
every layer of chain of command
Oh, yeah.
adds 15 minutes. And so you're there like midnight.
Yeah.
You're like, what the hell am I doing here?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I did that in the Air Force for sure. Well, first sergeant wants you here at 06,
Yeah.
so the lieutenant wants you here at 02, and yeah. But it really was the logistics of getting hundreds, like thousands of people, hundreds of cars, helicopters, fixed wing. And the beauty of it, they wanted us that when we launched, when our part of the snake went over this way and the other one went off this way, that if we were one of the first objectives in this town, we needed to be way back in the stack.
Yeah.
So the idea was SIMO hits. We had 80 something arrest warrants at 80 something different locations, and they wanted us all to arrive roughly within 30, 45 minutes because these guys are all squirt. I mean, they've all got burner phones. They're all gonna. We'd even planned for that. Like, we're gonna have dudes in the wind from the beginning. That's fine, but we're gonna wrap up as many as we can. A bunch of these guys too were dirty cops. So when I talked to the case agent about it, he said once they got once they got the cops to take 5 payoffs, they just kind of put them on the dirty cop list. 5. So they let these cops get paid off by drug dealers 5 times, recorded it, documented it, took it before court, got a warrant. And so we like this dirty cop, this dirty cop, this dirty cop. Now we got to go to this dirty cop's house and tell him he's under arrest when he's used to telling other people they're under arrest. This could be a really gnarly gunfight.
If I may, is there, I read a lot when I was going through that portion. As a law enforcement officer, right, as a special agent, right, who serves, the United States and ultimately the Constitution of the United States, is there a different, I don't want to ask a pointed question here, but I would look, when I saw Marines doing bad things, right, I was more disappointed than I was angry. Is there a difference? Did they put up a different fight? Did they give up? Do you treat them different? Like, I'm so mad, man. When I was reading the dirty cops, I was like, you're supposed to be the one that we look to, right? As a community and as a country. Do you guys feel the same way?
I don't know that it ever really, I don't think any emotion really crossed my mind. I remember being overwhelmed with the thought of we usually overpower and scare the hell out of everybody. We usually show up with an MRAP and Suburbans and an aircraft overhead and flashbangs and blow the door off the hinges, and most people real quick are like, man, I do not want to fight with you guys. Like, so many ops were anticlimactic because we would show up with so much force that no one got hurt, and that was the whole goal. We could go home at the end of the day and say no shots fired, all subjects in custody, evidence collected. But these guys are senior cops, so we have to convey to them, you're really under arrest, which is going to take a while to sink in. I was more worried about, what if I have to fight this guy? Like, what if I'm in an actual kinetic battle with another police officer? Granted, his shield's tarnished, right? Like, but he's more trained than your average
Sure.
drug
Shoot,
dealer.
I didn't even think about that.
He's got an AR-15. He probably has armor by his bed. If you're like me, he practices all the time. If we get into a gunfight, it's going to be gross.
Okay.
So a lot of it wasn't even about like a disdain, but I mean, to answer your question, really honestly, they were treated exactly the same. Like, I never, even when someone was like a child producer or someone that specifically sold drugs to kids, I didn't have the mental bandwidth to be hateful towards them. I think very analytically and methodically, and I just thought about, like, how do I win this fight with no one getting killed?
Boy, the
So
level of professionalism that you guys have, I can't thank you enough for, again, writing this book and putting this out there. Like, it has changed my perspective wholly, and just because it brings me into a world that I do not know. And boy, I mean, sorry, the professionalism that you guys have is just second to none. Second to none.
thanks,
Please.
man. Well, and I'm glad you say that. Like that, I can't express enough how much that means to me, especially from someone with your background, because one of the motivators to write the book was that people don't understand it. Like, guys would be like, "Oh, well, FBI doesn't really have like a SWAT team. Like, the FBI has like guys that say," I'm like, "No, we have a national asset. Like, we're technically part of the nation's special operations assets. We're the civilian component of it. HRT is the civilian Delta Force. It's the same thing." So, and part of it was like, I was at a church luncheon, and a lady, like a great nice lady, was trying to explain to her nephew. She's like, "Oh, do you know Jeremy? He was in the FBI. He was a what do you call it? He's an assassin."
Whoops.
I was like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "You like go in the woods and shoot people." And I go, "You know I'm a police officer. Right? You know I'm a detective. I don't." And she's like, You know what I mean. Like, you're the guy that
I can't use that word, ma'am.
no, no. Yeah, assassins aren't supposed to say they're assassins, but I did want people to see it really means a lot, to a tremendous amount for you to say that you feel like you understand a little bit behind the curtain, because so many people didn't. And then when I wanted to share in my experience with people, it was always tainted with, well, but you guys would like you wouldn't do that because the FBI doesn't work that way. I'm like, yeah, no, you let me explain to you how the FBI works. So that's why I wrote the book, and I wanted to honor the team. Like, a lot of guys have done a lot of really heroic stuff that no one will ever know about. So, but anyway,
Right. So yeah, you guys are on Delta Blues here. You're cruising
yeah.
through. Can you take us through phase line yellow?
Yeah, so you're probably familiar with phase lines. So there's a point where you stop and prep. A lot of times it was putting out like the breech pole on the armor, or it was who knows what. That's the coordinating point with the aviation assets. But a lot of times you'd stop at phase line yellow and you'd have last minute preps. And then when you go past phase line yellow, past phase line green, that's last point of cover. A little bit geeky, but that's where you've got compromise authority. Like, that's big boy rules. You're not asking anybody any permission from then on. If it goes kinetic, you make the decision you make. So phase line yellow, this is, like I said, it's an enormous convoy. We end up leaving the hotel at, I don't know, probably 11 o'clock at night. None of us have slept. We've gone out, got our gear, jocked, rallied, lined up, convoyed. Convoy's not moving that fast because it's that accordion effect of the first car needs to get out of your way. We finally all get to phase line yellow, and I think Little Toe was assistant team. His team leader at the time. He's freaking out, like explaining to me how he's going to pee on the floorboard. He's like, money, I'm going to try to pee. I'm going to try to hit. And I'm like, dude, here's a Gatorade bottle. And he's like, I can't drive and pee in a Gatorade bottle. And I'm like, don't ask me to hold it, man. He's like,
I'm your friend, but
he's
not
like,
that close.
He's like, I'll just pee right here. And I'm like, you can make it. But at the same time, I'm like, we all just had a bunch of coffee. We haven't had the chance to pee for 4 hours now, and everyone we're just thinking about us. We're both thinking like, the minute it stops, I'm gonna throw it in park and just bail out and run. Like, I don't even the car's not gonna come to a complete halt. I gotta pee that bad. And he and I, it stops. We're like phase line yellow. Oh, thank God. When doors are open, I got throw my rifle on my back and cinch it down. I'm already getting my pants off. And I'm looking at him and I'm laughing. He's looking at me, I'm laughing. And we look up and down the road and there's all these operators. Everyone has to pee. It's pitch black. I flip my nods down. I'm looking up and down and I can see all these troopers are with us too. And the troopers are out, they're peeing, and it's making like this arc of steam. It's the early morning. And I mean, there's a couple hundred dudes peeing upright. I look at him and he looks at me. We're laughing like, this is ridiculous. We're all out here peeing. If anybody drove by right now and they just are like 400 dudes with rifles cinched on their back, just peeing into a ditch. And then the ISR bird comes in low and they're blacked out. They don't have the lights on at all.
Oh, wow.
And it's that low, high RPM buzz they make when they're going low and slow. It's not like a thump, thump, thump. It's like a, and you can hear them. I look and I've still got my knob down and I look up and I'm like, oh, dude, I know they record these ops. How like, dude, I hope they are not recording this. And so it was such a funny moment. Little Toe looked at me and he said, what did he say? Said something about like headlights and steam as far as the eye can see.
I can
And I
only
just
imagine the ISR footage, like
Oh, yeah.
somewhere in some FBI annex somewhere, right? Is like
Yeah.
this image of hundreds of men on the side of the road pissing on the
Mhm.
side of the road before they go on to this like crazy ass mission. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are good memories. Yeah, so my response back to him was phase line yellow indeed. He thought that was pretty clever.
I think it's pretty accurate, and I think for any future mission planning, that's a really good moment, and
Yes.
it's a thing that people don't actually talk about, right? Is
Yeah.
like in combat, in these high stress scenarios, like your body still has to work, right?
Yeah.
And so taking time, we would honestly do that a lot before, like we're about to go into something. We'd all take your final, like restroom breaks, whatever it
Oh,
was.
yeah. Yeah.
And I love the fact that you're the person who put the nods down to go checking up and down the line. All right, so you guys finish up phase line yellow. What's
Mhm.
next on the movement here?
Man, so we roll up to our first house, and it's a shock to me when I get there how run down. Like, we've been in some bad areas, but this was legit run down, like dirt roads, dirt driveways, windows busted out, boarded up, abandoned homes. Like, I've been to Iraq and I've walked downtown Turkey. I've been on mission trips to Haiti and Uganda and Ghana, golly, Uganda and Ghana. And I was thinking like this could totally be from like the Horn of Africa. It's that
Wow.
run down, tore up. That didn't sink in. Like these people are living a horrible third world lives. A lot of them didn't have running water.
What?
And then it was just back to game on. And my assignment was to be the shield man, and then I was also one of the medics. So I remember there being just this cacophony of I don't know, like our way our pelters are set up. Like I'd carry 2 radios on my back, and I'd usually have one simplex, one duplex. It's kind of geeky, but like one for long range, one's for short range. One would bounce off a repeater,
Mhm.
and the fight net would just be in my right ear only. And then if
Okay.
I was talking to the talk or to the one of the aviation assets, I'd only hear it in my left ear. And then I had the medical command staff. I had like a phone on my armor, and I had like an earbud where I could put that into, and I could call. So so we're getting verbal commands. I can hear our team leader saying, 1 minute out, 30 seconds, last turn. And I can hear the helicopter, I can hear the helicopter saying, "Hey, we've got 2 vehicles in your driveway. We got white hot on the engine. Someone drove that a little while." Like, it's just a lot of noise, and it's the verbal commands and then both radios going, and we get out. I get the shield. We stack. We go to that first door. Frosty's the breacher. We knock and announce. We always knock and announce. We don't do no knocks. We don't do surprises. We always stand at the breach. Ideally, we would be in armor. This, we didn't have armor. So if you can't be in armor, you got to walk to the breach, you got to knock on the door, and you have to say, this is the FBI, we have a warrant. Every time you risk getting shot and killed through the door. But we just don't do no knocks. And if we can help it, 99% of the time we wait till the sun comes up. And you just have to know, like, we're police officers. You have to know that they know this is a legitimate thing. It's not a home invasion. It's not another gang. So we knock on the door and we can hear people rattling around. A couple of my teammates, Dangler and Vulture, their job is to get this air conditioner out of a window, to port the window so they can look in and get a rifle in. So they're trying to figure out how to breach this air conditioner and get it out. And right when they get it breached, I'm banging on the door. The air conditioner actually falls in, not out, and it lands on the dude on the couch. And so he's shrieking because the air conditioner lands on him. Frosty's hitting the door, boom, boom, and I can see the door just kind of like, I can see it bounce off the frame and back shut. I'm like, well, maybe it's barricaded. And then Vulture, he's got break and rake the glass. He's on a ladder and he's looking through the window and he's just gun. And so angry air conditioner leg guy is reaching across the sofa to get his gun, and he's closer to me than he is to that window. So I'm thinking, crap, there's a dude on the other side. Meanwhile, Frosty, boom, boom, he's hitting this door and it's just not. So this is all happening in seconds. It's been 1 or 2 seconds. And I can kind of see the door open and I see, like, oh, there's a sofa in front of it. There's no amount. Frosty's a big dude, but there's no amount of breach that's getting through this door. And so I call alternate breach. I call fail breach. Team leader, he hears me. He calls alternate breach. We've already got planned to go red side. We go red side, and immediately a dude squirts, just full on. He's looking over his shoulder and he's just running as fast as he can. And a couple of guys tackle him, cuff him up, stuff him in a squad car. And I've just got my shield. When he comes out, I just take my shield and I just block the whole door with my shield.
Okay.
I don't know how many dude, because they're fighting with this guy outside, and if I'm not closing that angle with my body, I can't even see someone in the front room shoot out that door at my teammates.
So you're just stopping the threat.
Yep. So, like, I know that's my job as shield guy, is to go, I just take the shield and I plug the door with it. And I'm also, like, eager eyes looking through that little bulletproof port, trying to see what's going on in there. And I can hear him cuffing him up, but I can't look, which is always eerie that you can't just, I can hear him fighting with the guy over my shoulder. I'm like, well, they got it. They probably got it. Okay, who's in the house? And I see the dude reaching for that same stupid gun. And I'm shocked by it. So it's a level 4 shield, so it's rifle rated, but it's probably 60 pounds. It sucks after a while.
Yeah.
And yeah, well, I get one arm jacked up under it, and I've got a 45 caliber Glock Model 21. I preferred big bullets and lots of them. And I get that up and I put it around the port, and I'm giving him commands. I'm like, hey, don't grab the gun. Don't grab the gun. And he kind of looks at me, and then he just takes a step toward. There's no way, man. Come on. Looking right at me, just this like dead, zoned out look. And I flip on the light and laser. I'm like making circles on his chest. I'm like, don't, man, I'll kill you.
Right.
I'll kill you. And he's like, and I'm intentionally telling him, like, it's not going to be like you get shot and then you go to the hospital and, like, I'm going to kill you. That's how serious this is. And he kind of looks at me again and takes another little step, and I'm taking the slack out. I'm like, shit. Like, I know I have a shield, but if he shoots me in the femoral artery, I'm dead. And if now there's a gap between the door frame and the shield, because I've got my pistol in it. If a bullet comes sailing out of there and it hits one of the guys behind me, they're dead. And so I'm taking the slack out with this resolve, like, you made me do this. And then he just stopped, kind of looked at the gun, kind of looked at me, and he just kind of slumped. And I was like, cool. Hey, we're cool, right? Turn around. I do the rudder, turn him around, walk him back to me, and cuff him up. And we ended up I think we did 3 or 4 hits that night. Right, it's kind of interesting. Right as we're breaching, during all that cacophony of Frosty's breaching the door, Vulture's launching this air conditioner in, he's yelling gun. We're switching to an alternate breach. Squirter comes flying out. I've got my shield up and all this stuff going on my headset, and I hear just real calmly, one of our sister teams call operator down. We need medical assistance at location Romeo 5. And so, like, I can hear my teammates fighting and my team leader telling me, "What do you got? What do you got?" And I'm telling this guy, "Don't, man, don't. I'll kill you, man." And then you're gonna hear like, "Roger that." He's down hard, and I hear the helicopter crew saying, like, "Roger that. We're on station LZ Turner." I still remember LZ Turner. Like, I remember specifically.
Yeah, it's like just the
And
weird things that you remember.
yeah, and so like I'm like when we had a moment, like when that guy finally came out and I took a breath, I like glanced at my watch. I think it was 9 minutes into the op,
Gosh.
and we've
The
already.
sensory overload that you have to go through, right,
Yeah,
is like, so you've got medical on your chest, you've got team on your right, you've got external and air on your left, you've
yeah,
got people fighting behind you that you
mhm,
can't look at
yeah.
because you're hoping that the 2 officers are bringing the suspect down. You've got a guy in front of you who's reaching for a gun, and you're
Mhm.
trying to save his life by telling him not to be. I don't know how your brain can process all of this information. It is beyond me.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, and, I felt like I wrote about it in the book. I felt like the Air Force Academy, like, trained me for that to some large degree. I think they would yell in both like, there was a thing they would do is guys would yell different things in both. A guy would tell you what to say in one ear, and another guy would tell you what to do. So one guy's yelling telling you, push-ups or burpees, and the other guy's telling you, like, "Recite this quote or recite this phonetic alphabet, recite the Navy rank structure." Like,
Hell, I can't
so
even do the Navy rank structure.
it's not real. It's not real anyway.
Yeah, right.
Um, how's a captain in charge in the Navy? No, but
Yeah, no,
yeah,
exactly, exactly. So
we
one
did
of
it.
the Go
Yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
Oh, one of the things that I really loved, about this, and again, so you guys did, I think, 3 more hits that night is what I remember reading,
That's
and
it.
you guys called an audible, right? Because that team that went down, they had a down shooter. You had to pick up their criteria. So you have one plan, sorry, 2 planned hits that you guys have been prepping for, and then
Mhm.
all of a sudden you have to call the audible and you have to do a couple of more to pick up the slack from the other team that had an injury or they had a casualty.
Yeah.
What is the conversation like now you're driving from point B to point C? What's happening inside of the vehicles as you guys are going there? You're like, are you downloading information and trying to get the best, pieces of information before you guys go in? What's that conversation like?
Yeah, it's basically how much conversation and how much intel can we gather while we're moving to that location because as you can imagine, the ops tempo is set. Like, you've gotta get to the next objective because people are squirting, and they're gonna be in the wind, and it's gonna take a long time to find them. So, it was a lot of the team leader saying, "You call this person, you call this person, I need you." I mean, a lot of often the team leader would be like, "You drive the truck because I'm gonna be on my radio trying to get intel," and it's a much it's a much different mindset to go to a complete unknown than, like, those first 2 or 3 hits. We knew the blueprint, we knew the bad guys,
Yeah.
um, we knew if they were, like, hidden tunnels, what kinda car they drove. Someone had been watching them, they could tell us, "Hey, dude's in the house." And we had ISR that can tell us, like, "We've got no movement external to" very controlled, very, you'll appreciate this, like, spoiled by the all the tools that we get that give us an advantage in the fight.
Yeah.
And not everybody does, right? Like your 11 Bravo doesn't necessarily, and your street cop doesn't necessarily, but like fortunate in certain jobs where you get aircraft and thermal and all that stuff. So, and then we go to this third or fourth house, and the team leader just briefs us real quick. Like, we don't know. We don't know. One of the first things he briefs, we don't know if there's kids. You really want to throw a flashbang into a house with kids?
Your
Um,
protection of the innocents, I think, was really, really, it shone through the entire thing,
Good.
and you're right. I think there's almost like a leadership, so we talk a lot about leadership, and one of the things that I'm going into education for, but I notice in the dynamics is you have the individual operator knows that you're on big boy rules, like, "Hey, when you guys are past the phase line green, you have authority to make the decision that we have given you and the training." And then there's also moments where you are now moving to objective 3, which is an audible, and one person is yelling out commands, and there is not, from what you're describing,
no one else is chirping back saying, "Hey, this is a better idea. How about this?" You're like, "Nope, time is of the essence. I am willing to receive and just do at this point." And I
Yeah.
think that's really strong for leaders to recognize and
Mhm.
followers to recognize where there's moments to be, and you kind of code switch between I'm an independent operator here and I'm a follower right now. And it can be the same person in the very next moment as the situation starts to dictate. And I think that's extremely, poignant when I think a lot of people are looking for, the kind of like broad brush leadership principles across. And like, this can work everywhere. And you're like, no, man, situation dictates. And
Yeah.
especially when there's five different sets of information coming into a person's mind, you need to be clear, you need to be direct. And sometimes it's not open to interpretation or opinion. Just do what I say because it's the fastest way to get through this specific challenge.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Um,
kind of a funny thing is we're approaching that audible, I'm on shield. We just decided, like, you're gonna get a job, and for the entire day, you're gonna stick to that job. So I just got a shield man all day. So that was it helped when we did the audible because the team leader was just like same stack as the last house. We stack up the same, and I'm moving towards now the sun's up. We lost our air support. Um, and there's a lot of chaos because there's been multiple gunfights that day already, and they're responding to that. And so we're just moving to the threshold. I've got the shield up, and I can hear a couple of my teammates using their big boy voices for someone. You can hear them. They're like, "You hands up!" You can tell like, oh, and the same thing. I want so badly to go, "What's happening, fellas?" And I can't. I was
yeah.
like, shield up, looking towards the door. I need to go block this this danger area, this fatal funnel. And I just put it behind me, like, whatever's happening, the boys can handle it. We end up clearing this house, we do our thing. It's all said and done, and one of my teammates, Twilight, he we flopped down. There's, like, a couple of, like, Hot Wheels, they're not Hot Wheels, they're, like, kids' cars, but
Oh, yeah.
we're so tired, where I'm like, my back hurts so because for whatever reason for this op, I just thought, I'm doing the full Monty. I'm doing front and back plates. I'm doing we had steel plates. I put
Oh,
on my
wow.
shoulder armor. I had level 4 steel plates in my shoulder. I had, I wasn't using my cutout helmet. I was using like my full drop helmet. And I'm carrying a shield, and I got my EMT bag, and I've got 2 radios. And so by the third one, and I haven't slept, since the day prior, and I'm like, I could use a minute to sit down. And so we flop on these 2 vehicles, and we're taking like stupid selfies, which are some of my fondest memories of like,
Absolutely.
we're just taking like, here we are sitting on some kid's tricycle.
Like
Or
a
yeah.
tricycle, yeah.
Yeah.
Like a big
And,
wheel.
uh, and I was like, "Dude, what was it with you yelling at the dude right as we were moving to the threshold on this 3rd hit?" And he was like, "Oh, man." This guy literally walks up to us off the street, and he's like, "I'm Tyrone Johnson," whatever, I'm making names up, right? And, they're like, "Okay." And he's like, "You guys are looking for me." Well, we're looking for 88 we're looking for 88 dudes that night. And so they just were like, "You know what? We are. Come here." And they pulled him off and cuffed him up and ran his ID, and they came back over the radio. We had numbers for
Mhm.
all the targets. They came back, I don't know what it was, but they came back, they're like, "Yeah, this is number 34." He, like, ran out of the last residence, and we said, "Why did you give yourself up?" I'm asking Twilight this. "Why would that dude give himself up?" And he said, "Hey, I just heard the FBI is everywhere. There's no escape tonight. I just wanna get it over with."
Overwhelming force, right?
Yeah.
The ability to make people make some like decisions about their future, and you're like, I mean, do you want to fight your way out of this thing,
Yeah.
or do you like? There's really no other escape from this thing. It's do you want to fight
Yeah.
or do you want to die or do you want to give up, right? And do you want to like come into custody? Wow.
Yeah.
If I may, there's a really cool line here that again that I loved is putting FBI operators on the ground who could immediately collect physical and cyber evidence, identify deceased combatants via DNA, conduct direct interviews with combat detainees, and coordinate military drone footage, significantly enhance the entire U.S. counterterrorism program. This is what you did for us overseas. What I loved here was the FBI had developed a great reputation because of the expertise of our interviewing skills. There was no waterboarding, no torture, and no threats. Our technique was to build trust and determine deep motives, what made people tick. The core mission of the FBI is to determine the truth, and the key set of skills of an FBI special agent is to identify deception and develop a rapport so that people feel comfortable and motivated to tell the truth. Convictions aren't the goal, getting the truth is. Proving someone is innocent is as much of a win as proving someone guilty. I loved how in this instance, this is when you guys are helping the U.S. military. This is the same piece here. Is what you're talking about is this constant like I am there to make sure that justice is being served and justice is being served appropriately. Everything that I've read, everything that you've talked about, isn't this overuse of military type technology on civilians. It is the dissuasion of violence through overwhelming force of saying, "You're gonna stop and you're gonna have to make a conscious decision here." But
Mhm.
every single piece that we've read here and that we've talked about is always coming back to this preservation of life and this idea of protecting innocence at the same time as putting the bad guys away. Again, kudos to you and your team for continuing through this. What were the results of Operation Delta Blues?
Oh, man, I'd have to look it up, but, I don't we got a lot of money and a lot of drugs and a lot of guns. We got, I think, all but a handful of them that night. I wanna say before noon.
Oh, wow.
We got, I wanna say maybe like 80 out of 88, something, those numbers are very rough, but in that ballpark.
Wow.
And then, even then, guys were like, "We're gonna put him in fugitive status," and the FBI's fugitive unit is like no other, like, "We'll catch him." Like, it's not that, it would have been nice to catch them all here today, but, like, there was a handful that they were, like, 3rd wave, and they were already gone when 3rd wave hit, and
Okay.
they were in the wind, but, huge
Well, like you
success.
said, right, the FBI doesn't give up, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's fantastic, man. Holy crap. And so it's
Yeah.
just put a huge, like, just gutted this entire organization down in the Delta Blues.
Yeah, and took out some cops, some dirty cops, and hopefully made the community a little bit better. There was some there was some other big news story in that time frame, like, I wanna say, like, an attempted assassination on a ambassador or something, but I thought, "Man, this story's gonna be everywhere." Like, I saw this enormous logistical machine
Mhm.
do all these arrests, uh, with, like, the firepower of the US military, not quite. We didn't have miniguns or anything, but, still, this is gonna be all over the news, and it just didn't make the news. It didn't, like, I got home and people were like, "Where were you last week?" I was like,
Mhm.
"This huge operation." They're like, "What are you talking about?" Now, you know how it is these days, people immediately are like, "Oh, let me check my phone." Like,
Yes.
they check, they're like, "Oh, Delta Blues was a real thing. I see it right here." And they're like, "Yeah, no, it was a real thing."
Yep.
Yeah, there's several ops like that where we had the big national, we bring in all the teams and bring in all the big logistics and do big, that's my favorite. Those would
It's it's hard. I mean, like, how fun would that be, right? Because it's, again, not like fun. Gosh, you're not like it's this weird thing to be able to describe to people as being around other like-minded folks who are singularly committed to a specific mission.
yeah.
And there's a ton of camaraderie in seeing guys you haven't seen for a while. I had a chance many years ago to help with what was at the time called the Best of the West SWAT competition
Hmm.
out in California. And so I got to meet SWAT teams from all over the country, the Department of Energy, right? Federal SWAT, all this kind of stuff. And just
Mhm.
watching the skill set. And it was a great, kind of moment of having all these people kind of come together from different branches and services
Yeah.
and municipalities having solving the same, complex problems.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we continue on down the path here, I am just continually fascinated. I would like to know about sniper divas, and your and since we are both snipers, we and no
Uh-huh.
one else is in the room, we can talk about all of the breachers and their or the assaulters and how easy their life is in comparison to being a sniper. Can you go into some of the
Yeah.
conversations around that?
And I don't know if I started it, but I definitely stoked that fire. Every time I got a chance, I would talk crap on the breachers.
Baby,
And,
what, 6 pound, 8 ounce little baby breacher.
and it's partly because, like, I do have a lot of respect for what the breachers do. Uh, a lot of it was gear stuff, right? Like, there's a limited amount of money to buy gear, and that's where I think the Sniper Diva came from, because 'cause they'd say, "Well, we got this
Ah.
much money to spend," and we're like, "Well, I'd really like that new Leupold Mark 5 to 25 single focal plane with the tremor reticle and single ear stuff. How much are those?" Are like, "They're about $3,000 a scope." And, I need a laser rangefinder, but I want this particular one it'll $750, but I can range, like, solid at 1,000 meters, and the breachers are like, dude, I need a ram. What is wrong with you guys? I'm like, you have plenty of rams. You don't need more rams. You like, fill up your propane tank or whatever you knuckle draggers do. Like we have to know, math and count. And so I always kind of portrayed them as like, I created the FBI sniper patch. I don't know if I've ever told anybody that, but if you ever see the FBI sniper patch, it's the Sierra S and arrow with the shield of bravery and the scales of justice. And I just did it because like we'd needed a sniper patch, and for years we've been arguing over it. And so I just did it and I presented it like the de facto patch, and every division bought it. And so now it's the patch. But like, so the breachers were like, we don't have a national breacher patch. We don't. So we joke like, well, we'll make you one. It's just gonna have this dumb guy holding a hammer. That's what like, because it was just fun to like always. And if the breacher screwed something up, they'd make fun. It was so much fun to just pick on each other. But honestly, I was always amazed that we would make, when I was shield guy, we'd make approach to a fatal funnel, which this is where guys get shot. This is where rounds come through the door. And it's already a lot to be there with a shield and not have a weapon up. And then once we established who we were and that we were opening the door, we'd step back and the breachers come up. I mean, nothing but plates. And they're setting hydraulics, or they're cutting with a torch, or they're swinging a ram or whatever. And then they got to throw that down, get their rifle up and get in the fight with us. So like, I respected how much bravery it took to be a breacher. But I'd give them crap right back when they were like, how many lasers do you idiots need?
Dude.
I'm like, shut up, hammer guy.
Yeah, dude, when I came into the force company, I was primarily a sniper beforehand. I was like an infantry sniper, and then I moved over to recon and then force recon. And when I got into the force recon companies, direct action became a lot more of our mission set. Very different than clearing and, Fallujah type stuff. But it was like visit board, search and seizure, going on, taking over, oil, rigs, or taking over shipping. And so we had a lot of this. And I remember, boy, I ate my words. I remember saying one time, and I was like, "Man, a monkey could clear a house, right?" Like it takes a real brain to be a sniper,
Mm.
Fast forward, I'm a team leader clearing a house, and chaos is ensuing,
Yeah.
and everything is going everywhere. And I had a great friend of mine, Nick, his name's Nick, and he comes up to me, and I'm like what we call radio defilade, right? I've got sensory overload. I've got comms in my right and my left, and I'm sitting and staring at the ground. And I remember I hate Nick so much because I'm running around freaking out in this training scenario, right? And I'm like, everybody just needs to calm the F down. And my entire team, as calm as can be, looks at me and goes, any monkey could clear a house, right? I'm like, ah! Like I'm freaking out, like, because
Yep.
it is so complex. So there's always this love and hate
Oh,
back
yeah.
and forth between assaulters and snipers.
Oh, yeah.
And I love the fact that we recognize that, it's like brothers kind of chirping at one another.
For sure.
So can you tell me a little bit about this stapler, and how this stapler was the nail in the coffin for indicting or for, convicting this specific person,
Yeah.
and the story behind that?
That was another bomber. Surprisingly large number of bombers we arrested. As I wrote the book, I thought, man, I started talking to guys that were like bomb techs and stuff, and I was like, we have a lot of bombs. So this guy's yet another bomber. He's in Oklahoma, and so it's just our team. It's not like a big national op, not a bunch of extra resources, it's just us. And it's just straight up, we think he's here. We think it's the guy that sent the bomb. There's enough evidence that he is the guy sending bombs through US mail. So a bomb actually got intercepted and disrupted, and he was sending it to someone. And there was evidence, not a lot of it I'll go into, but there was evidence that pointed to this guy. So we did overhead surveillance. We couldn't really do on ground surveillance because this dude lives in this big forested piece of property that backed up to I think like 1,000-foot cliff and a multi-thousand-acre lake. So this team leader was like, "Do you think you guys could go out there and just lay eyes on and recon this guy for a while?" And I was like, "There's no way we could." But the chances of us one of his neighbors is going to see us, or it's
Mhm.
going to be obvious as we're scaling a cliff. And We just do all aerial surveillance, and then we go to do the warrant. And it was kind of a fun op because we had to cross the lake. Got these troopers to take us across in a boat.
Dude, I love that
And
story.
it was kind of fun. We'd always kind of joked about, I have to back up a little bit.
Yeah.
There was a point where in the national special operations framework, some decision makers said, we can't have DevGru assault a boat inside U.S. waters. It's a violation of posse comitatus.
Can you go into that? That's I did highlight that section because I think that's actually from an education standpoint, if we don't mind taking a tangent into that, I think
Yeah.
it's really important for people to really understand what the limitations are. So you have a pretty good paragraph in here, but I'd love to hear your take.
It's something they really pounded in my head as an OSI special agent, specifically because I was a captain. There were civilian special agents. So the civilian special agents could arrest civilians, but specifically because I was a member of the military and carried the rank of captain, although I didn't have the uniform anymore, it was illegal for me to exercise law enforcement authority on a civilian. So if there was a guy on base dealing drugs, you're on base, so you're partly my problem. If you're a military member on base, you're all mine. If you're a civilian off base, I got to find someone to help because under this suit, I'm an Air Force captain, and we'd never want military members exercising law enforcement. And I think we saw that a lot with the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, is that a lot of these third world countries, they're like, you're either the guy with the gun and you're in power or not. We're trying to convey to them, no, your police officers always have to be peacekeepers and protectors, and your soldiers kill your enemies. And they seem a lot alike, but they've always have to be different. So in the US, we have the posse comitatus law. So you can't send a Ranger regiment into downtown New York to stop a riot. The military can't enforce civilian law, and that's hard and fast. So many years ago, but while I'm still in the Bureau, there's this big field training exercise, FTX, a tabletop, and they're like, well, we'll just send in DevGru to assault this hijacked tanker. And then someone points out, well, they're not in international waters anymore. They're in U.S. waters. This is actually it's a law enforcement action. It'd been hammered in my head as an OSI agent. If you ever try to arrest a civilian, you're going to get sued and you're going to lose, right? It's not so.
The posse comitatus thing, again, this is not me with any kind of pointed thing. I just think it's an important point. There's so many people that just don't really understand the United States Constitution, right, and the laws that hand that. So it's a piece that we can definitely talk about later on. But so going back to the stapler incident, you guys are on boats. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Right? So you guys were now cruising on these boats in this guy's whatever property or whatever it was.
Well, that's the tangent I went on. So I can connect this now. At one point, we get this memo from headquarters that says every team will now go through maritime shipboarding training and have an annual water survival test, and you'll have a regular. Did you have medals, mission essential task?
Yeah.
Like they added a medal for shipboarding and maritime ops.
You're like, what the hell?
And we're like, I realized we went everywhere, but we're primarily in Oklahoma. Like, do we really need to add a medal for all teams to do? So we had to get them Mustang inflatable vests and do our swim test and climb up rope ladders. And I hate it. Like, I'm a crap swimmer. But everyone had to
join the Air Force and not the Marine.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So we're on this boat. I don't know how to describe. I don't know boats, but to me, it was a big boat. And I've got my sniper team with me, and we've got a QRF and then these troopers that are driving it. And for the first time in my life, I was like, thank God we have the maritime medal. We were all kind of joking about it. We're like, yeah, we're going on a maritime op. Like we're in a lake in Oklahoma, but we were kind of having fun with like, well, we're doing a maritime insertion on a lake. But I actually had the Mustang vest on, and I've been thrown into a pool with my armor on and realized like this is what neutrally buoyant armor feels like and what the Mustang feels like and how much kit can you have on and not drown and how right. Yeah. So I was actually thinking, thank God we got all this. I had all this training because if this boat, we're going mockety-mock freak out speed across. I don't know if the troopers were just trying to show off, but I saw how the throttles moved and he was using all of it.
Like a peg.
And it's night.
Ripping across the water.
And I have nods. He doesn't. So I'm looking around and I can see we're just bah, 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 every little white cap, we're catching air. And I thought, man, I don't know this lake, but if there's a rock or something, I got to get this ruck off. I got to lose my arm. I get this helmet off. I got, I was like thinking about how, anyway, we finally get to where we're supposed to go after a couple of hiccups. We have to climb this 1,000-foot wall. It's not vertical, but it's a cliff. And it just smoked me, man. Like we finally get to the top of it, and I'm trying not to breathe hard so no one can hear me. I'm like trying to like
Always try to look tough in front of
oh
your
yeah.
friends, no matter what.
I'm looking around, I'm looking at the other guys, and I'm like, okay, they're all smoked too. Cool. I'm like, and I'm the leader of this element. So I'm like, hey, let's defensive 360. So we just do a circle and everyone faces outwards. Everybody comes in a circle, everyone face, and then you have a minute where you can just kind of breathe. You can point your illuminator out in the woods and just kind of scan. And so, and I can hear all of us are just like, wait, so really I'm like waiting for us to catch our breath, but I'm calling it a defensive 360. And then we go out. It's like 800-meter infill, which took us hours because of Oklahoma briar.
That's the thing. The time distance requirements of moving through brush or just thickets, people on a map like, oh, it's 800 meters. That'll take 15 minutes. And you're like, okay, it's dark. There's no illume. I've got nods. Everything is catching at my feet and there's like absolutely. And I would sit and it would take me 4 to 5 hours to move or a cycle of darkness to move a click, and people, and that was the assaulters, man, always coming at me like, snipers, why do you got to take so long out there?
Yeah.
It's just 800 meters. And you're like, ah,
Oh yeah. Every op. You there yet? Are you guys there yet? No.
yes.
600 meters out. Oh, so you're practically there. No, we're 600 meters out. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'll fast forward. We get to the objective and we set up Overwatch. We got ISR bird overhead and solid comms. And we wait. The way we do it, we put the Sierras in early, and we had the QRF because this guy had 3 attack dogs, and who knows? And it was a bomber. So like nice to have a small QRF. And so they're out there with suppressed MP5s, and we're bolt guns, and then I've got a spotter. I have an assaulter filling in as a spotter with just his M4. And then once we got pretty good intel, lights coming on, coming off, who's home, heat signatures, all that, the MRAP, it's just loud as hell. It's just a big nut. It's just, you can hear it just clankety, clankety, bang, bang, miles out. So I was glad we planned it where we're not going to bring the MRAP up until we have pretty solid eyes on the objective. It comes up, and I'm like, all right, this is the part where it gets exciting. Safety off, my bolt guns lined up. At this point, the sun's coming up. I'm taking off my PVS 22. I'm just using natural spectrum through my scope. They come up, they get on the horn. They're like, Mr. Bomber Guy, this is the FBI. We have you surrounded. We're not leaving. Come out with your hands up. And a lot of times, this is where we sit for hours. We get negotiators. And so I'm kind of stretching like, all right, here we go. Like, probably 3 or 4 more hours. This guy
for the long haul.
He just door opens and you see him peek out. He looks and there's just bad. I mean, there's just good guys everywhere. He looks out and he's like, he just walks out. Like I was like, oh, all right, right on. Okay. He just comes right out and gives up. And so, we still clear it like it's high risk. We don't know what else. Plus, and we've got embedded special agent bomb technicians that are part of the team, and we'd actually trained for this. Like he'd set up scenarios where they were tripwires and all kinds of stuff that I don't remember the names for. And he'd have a blast blowing us up and killing us while we were doing reps in the kill house.
Okay. Yeah.
And so we're all kind of, I'm in my hide, but I'm thinking through, like, I know the guys are all hopped up. We're all looking for tripwires and booby traps and all that. And I'm just clearing I'm seeing guys move through windows, and I'm just trying to stay one room ahead as I can see, like, I can see them coming into white Bravo 2, and I'm looking to white Bravo 3, looking at that window, seeing if that window is empty. And they clear the house. It's pretty anticlimactic. The team leader calls and he's like, Sierras collapse up. So I cinch my rifle up. I get out my M4, take my ghillie hat off, put my helmet back on, and we truck up to the objective. And I go up to the team leader and I'm like, where do you need me? And he's like, we used to be on the evidence response team. Why don't you jump in and help with the search? I was like, okay, yeah, wherever you need me. Cool. Stash all my gear and, get down to just basic plates. And I'm just like asking the search team leader, where do you want us? And he's like, upstairs, go help so and so. He's doing the whatever this guy's study or whatever room, and we're searching through, and he pulls out this like industrial stapler, and he's like, "Should I take this?" And I remembered I told you about how we'll read each other's affidavits, we'll read each other's probable cause
Yeah.
affidavits. Oh, I read the whole probable cause affidavit, and then I read the whole the FBI laboratory in DC did a whole workup on this bomber stuff, and I was fascinated. Like, I don't know, it's a bad thing, but I'm also fascinated with how he took like rocket igniters from model rockets and batteries and zip ties, and he made like a legit bomb.
Sure.
But I remember that he had stapled basically there's a pole wire, like when you get a package and you glue it shut and then you rip this ripcord to open it. He had set it to where it closed the circuit when you pulled that. It would boom when you pulled that.
Oh, wow.
And he ran staples through the cardboard box to hold the line in place, so when you ripped it open, it would pull and it would close the circuit and it would blow up. And, but I remember them saying that if you can find a stapler, seize it.
What an
Uh,
odd thing for them to say, right?
yeah,
Okay, I guess, right? And so
like
now you're cruising on this crime scene, be like, Okay, I guess I'll look for staplers."
so, and that because that was first I was thinking, well, we need to look for, he like smokeless powder, and then we looking for pipes that are threaded on both ends with caps. You don't really need pipes that are threaded on both ends a lot of times, and wiring and detonators, det cord. These Estes model rocket igniters is what he used for an igniter. We're looking for D-cell batteries. But I was like, oh yeah, stapler. I was like, dude, that's good. Let's get it. I called down. I was like, hey, we're going to collect the stapler. And I'm not taking credit. Like that guy found it, but I just remember this light bulb went on my head. I'm glad I read the affidavit
Yeah.
because it seems pretty mundane, but I'm like, yeah, let's bag and tag that. And we go, mission's over. We go eat breakfast. We're on to the next mission, planning for the next cycle. And I kind of forgot about the case. It's probably weeks later. I'm just driving around and a buddy calls me and he's like, "You remember that op that we did? Remember our maritime insertion op?" I'm like, "Oh yeah."
Yes, how can I forget?
Yeah. They were like, "Well, they grand jury indicted that dude on for producing bombs and he got this whopper sentence." And I was like, "That's awesome." Like it's always nice to hear. You don't always hear they're like, "Yeah, he got this guy actually we put him in jail and they said, guess what they got him on?" Like, what was, like, the pivotal piece of evidence? And I was like, probably the gunpowder, right?" And they were like, "No, that stapler that they seized, they ran a metallurgy analysis on the staples from the bomb to the one in his house." And it's like, I don't know metals, but it's like this much antimony and this much zinc
Sure,
and
sure, sure,
this
sure.
much iron. And so, like, only 1 in 7,000 staples would have the same makeup, and then the nerds who I adore back at the lab were like, "I knew that you can get, you know, footwear impressions and fingerprints,
Yeah.
and you can pull fingerprints off of bullets. You can get uh, the lands and grooves on a bullet, the striker impression. Like, but I didn't realize that a stapler leaves a unique impression. And so they had the original stapler from the search warrant and the ones that from the bomb actually that detonated, and they could show these in like ultra high detail, these exact same markings enough that a jury was convinced, like, we have everything we need that this guy is the bomber. But yeah, of all the things for this guy to go to federal jail for, the linchpin was the stapler.
I love that. And I love that was like, again, a laugh out loud moment for me was because again, like it's these things that you don't normally think of, but again, it levels back into the professionalism and like who you guys are as a team and what you're able to accomplish because of just coming together and saying, "Hey, we are detectives, we are fact
Mhm,
finders, and
mhm.
that is what we do. We provide facts, that people can use to be able to, adjudicate as they see fit." And I think it just shows to a level of things that I wouldn't have thought of, and I think it really, really, plays to who you guys are.
Yeah.
This has been an absolutely fascinating read, as we go through this. So as we kind of start to sundown, the episode here, I wanted to kind of turn it over to you. This has been really enlightening for me as a citizen, right? As a civilian. Um, what I want to say is really thank you to you and your team and all of the men and women that you've described in this book because to me, even though I consider myself an educated citizen and a person who has a lot more intimate details of this world, or an adjacent world, I found myself learning so much about how you work as an organization. The same brotherhood and sisterhood that I found inside of my organization, I saw inside of here. The same self-deprecation, the needling of each other, right? Through,
Yeah.
you know, getting the call sign dangler was an especially fun, vignette for me as I
Nice.
read through that. Um, as we go forward, into this space, I look forward to anything else that you write because you're an incredible writer. Is there
Thank you.
anything that you would like to, if I give you the microphone, right? Is there anything that you would like to say to the audience to be able to take, away? What I want to do is just give you the space to say whatever it is that you want.
All right. Well, first of all, thanks for letting me come on and talk. It's been a really fun conversation. And I've read all your stuff, and when I say thank you for your service, I don't mean it in like the hollow way that people say when you get a free meal. Like, thank you for what you did downrange in an entire career in service to our country. I am very envious of what you went through, and I'm super grateful that you even gave me an opportunity to talk a lot. So it does a lot for me to talk about that old brotherhood because I'm in this phase of life where I am still coping with the loss of it. 3 years into retirement, and did not think I would still be having these feelings. Like, I knew retirement was coming. I had a full career, all total 32 years federal service, no regrets, loving the freedoms that I have now, but still that camaraderie I have not been able to feel anywhere else. And I think I'm not saying I'm sad or I'm lonesome. It's a horrible word, but I think there are a lot of lonesome guys, and they're not just vets. There's a lot of guys that just don't connect with other guys, and, we just do it to ourselves. So I think if I could encourage, like, any of your listeners to, like, take that step to go volunteer somewhere. I just reading a book recently where the author says the real reason that guys golf is because 'cause they're afraid to ask each other to go for a walk,
Dude,
you know?
I thank you for saying that because it's just like I think that more men, need to talk to more men, right, and have conversations like this. It's tough, man. It's tough. It's tough out there, and losing that brotherhood has been something that has been, tough for me as well.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm glad that you're able to talk about
Right.
that. Sorry.
And everybody told me, man, they're like, "Dude, you had the honeymoon, it's awesome, you sleep in, you do whatever you want, go to the range every day, go to the gym every day, and then a few months into it, you get the blues." I'm like, "Whatever, dude." Like, you don't understand how many hobbies I have lined up. I have so many fun adventures lined up for myself. I'm fine. And I did a whole bunch of fun things I wanted to do after retirement. And then I realized I was doing a lot of them by myself. Like, like I want to go on some adventure hunting, or I want to do some adventure, in an airplane or whatever. Like, I bought like the most expensive, nicest gun I could get, started competing. And then I was like, oh crap, I kind of feel that blue feeling. What the hell? Like I have a pension and everything's great and I'm healthy and my family's healthy. Then I realized I'm going off on these adventures by myself.
Dude, I'm the same.
And, I'm like, I love my wife and we have an empty nest now and I have got great friends, but I kept trying to find this replacement for my tribe. And the epiphany that I finally had was there's no replacement.
Mm.
It's fine. That season is over. It's up to me to remember to connect with those guys because they're doing the same thing. I mean, just yesterday, I have a group chat of a bunch of guys. I call this group chat, I named it Retired Operator Mafia. And bunch of my almost anyone with a call sign in the book is in this
Yeah, yeah,
chat.
yeah.
And I was just like, "Hey, does anybody want like, can we all just meet in the same town and all go get dinner?" And everyone was like, hell yeah, right, say when, say
Dude.
when." Everyone everyone was like, and everyone's happy and healthy and flourishing, but we were all like, "Ah, I need to be happy with building new tribes, like, in my volunteer community, but there's no way I can stop at least trying to connect." It charges my back. Even this conversation right now, you could probably tell, like, when I get a chance to talk to police or military veterans, there's a, like, "Oh, you get me." Like you said, like, "I see you." Like, I know what you mean when you said that, and I think we need both. Like, you gotta stay in touch with that old tribe, and you gotta build those new tribes at the same time, so
So I do agree with you on that, and I'm really glad that you were able to come on here and just have an authentic conversation with me as two people who can understand each other and have never lived the same life.
yeah. I appreciate it, man. It's been
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, again, to every one of our listeners out there and our viewers on YouTube, forgive the sticky notes. As everyone knows, this is my weird brain. I'm not the most methodical sniper in the world. But the book is Send Me. It has opened up my eyes to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I have an old teammate who's in the FBI now. I will give him a call and tell him that I know a little bit more about what he does because I've read this book. This is a deeply patriotic book. This is deeply American, deeply personal, um, and something I will recommend to a lot of people as we continue to go forward. I look forward to what you write in the future. I will read it, and we will always bring you back on. As a note, we will be doing sort of a some leadership vignettes in the
Mm,
future as my education is taking me into leadership spaces.
mhm.
I'd love to bring you on for that as well, and to talk about different leaders and styles that you've seen across your service as well.
I would love that.
With that, I want to thank you very much, Jeremy, for coming on.
All right. Thanks, AJ.